Welcome, specialists, coaches, dads of kickers, moms of punters, relatives of long snappers, and dogs that shag kickoffs to the Iceman Kicking Podcast. It's the show with cold questions and even cooler guests, and we're here to talk about the ins and outs of special teams and specialists. I am your host, Brett Killing, and we've pulled all the strings, all right? We called the higher-ups to bring in this guest. I'm very excited here. We have Alan Tucker, who is the Mississippi State Special Teams analyst there. Coach Tucker is from Demopolis, Alabama. He went to Mississippi State out of Demopolis High School in 2011. After a playing career with Mississippi State, he began his coaching career at Valdosta State in 2016 with a team that went 8-3 in a first-round spot in the playoffs. Valdosta State, for those of you that don't know, is a very illustrious, dominant D2 program. After that, he became the defensive QC at the Citadel, and then followed that up where he is currently the special teams analyst at Mississippi State. Teams Coach Tuck, welcome to the show. I know you've had a crazy 72 hours of traveling and whatnot. Tell me a little bit about what you've been up to.
What's going on, Brett, man? Heck of an intro. I didn't know some of those things that you said, so I'm pretty fired up. Wrote them down. Now I know a little bit more about myself. Yeah, man, 72 hours of travel. You know, we don't get this time back, so while we got it, I'm trying to bounce around everywhere. But we're back in old Stark Vegas, ready to fire it up to do this this little, not a podcast, just a Zoom and a podcast, but we're just going to talk special teams.
That's right, man. That's
our love. So
you got a podcast. This will be on YouTube. Shoot, we'll even be on TikTok.
Whoa. We're out there.
Yeah, we're out there. We're really out there. Hey, you know what? And it's something I was thinking about too. Were you on that team that was #1 in the nation, Mississippi State, with Dak Prescott?
Oh, yeah, 2014 Orange Bowl. You dang right. Yeah, we were #1 for the very first ever college football playoff rankings. The Mississippi State Bulldogs were top that list. So we held that for 5 weeks. Leading up into it, man, they thought we were going to run the table and actually ended up, finishing the season 10-2 and took a big L in the Orange Bowl against a really good Georgia Tech team with that triple option, man. It was – but, man, I tell you what, there's so many things that a lot of people don't get to experience that I got to experience from that. And, man, that was awesome. College game day, all that. It was unforgettable. So I got plenty of pics and Snapchats, stories, all that kind of saved from it. But it was great. At that point I was a student coach, so I wasn't as cool, but I was still a part of it.
Oh, yeah, man. And that's why we brought you on, man, because you got some great experiences, some great stories there. Hey, before we get into anything, we have to get into a word from our sponsors. This show is brought to you by The Kicker's Bible. The Kicker's Bible. Do you want to learn the ins and outs of kicking from NFL specialists, organize practice schedules for in-season and the off-season so you don't overkick, how to get a full ride scholarship offer, the perfect long snapping technique for tossing a 6'5" ball on the hip every time. This book provides specialists with the ultimate guide containing everything necessary to find success as a specialist at the highest level. Brett R. Kelly combined over 10 years of experience as a player and coach with countless hours of research to develop this handbook of the greatest collection of proven technique tips used by college and NFL specialists and coaches all in one place. The Kicker's Bible is a must-have for both players and coaches at every level who want access to information essential to perform and teach at the best of their ability. Go to IcemanKicking.com to get your copy today.
If we were last in the country returning punts, I might not be on the podcast. So shout out to the R&B team. Hey, and everyone listening, man, y'all order my dog's book, man. Y'all stop playing with my guy, man. Iceman Kicking. Go get the book, The Kicker's Bible. Order the thing. Support this young man.
All right. We have the Iceman Kicking podcast here, and we are, again, with Coach Alan Tucker. Coach Tuck, welcome to the cold seat. Okay, we're going to talk about your background real quick before we get into any of this. Know that you got a twin and a younger sister. Talk to us about growing up and your passion for football. Where did this all start?
Oh, yeah, man. Hey, well, it's a pleasure to be on. Real quick, hey, guys, be looking for kickers on your college campus to be handing out the New Testament of the Kicker's Bible on your local quad. Old Testament will be dropping in the fall, so just be on the lookout for that. Now, I can't wait to get mine in the mail, man. I'm ready to read that thing and And a guy that was only a snapper, I depend on guys like you to be able to say words in a meeting and sound like I know what I'm talking about. So fired up. Yeah, background. Let's go, man. I got a twin sister named Maggie. She is actually 2 minutes older, so I'm the baby of the family. And I got an older sister named Claire and a mom. So I was the only boy in the family. Not a great start to sports for me. Had a sister that played the clarinet, a twin sister that was really good at athletic training. So not a lot of things in my family told me to go the sports route. Started out in percussion, man. I was in school band, pretty good at that. Got honor band, riding that wave. And then I would say 8th grade, something told me, hey, man, I grew about 5 inches. Little League baseball, I was just outgrowing it. Too big for them out there. Just dropping bombs, either striking out or hitting it over the fence. So I said, let's take my talents to the football field and see what I can do. And I walked in. The coach was like, man, you look like quarterback. I was like, no, I just want to play O-line so I can get on the team. He's like, don't be stupid, man. Like you're 6'2"-ish, 185. Like you're going to play quarterback. I'm like, no, I really just want to make the team. So I'll play tight end or whatever. So that's how it all started. And in high school, started to get a little larger and moved to the O-line. So played tackle, played a little tight end, little defense. And then one day, my best friend, Taylor, we were in the backyard and we're like, hey, let's try to throw some balls between our legs. Like, why not try to long snap? There was an older kid on our team that was really good at it. He was a receiver. And we were both looking for ways to get on the field. And so we started long snapping, and that's kind of how I fell in love with that part of it. And ultimately, that's what got me to college. But I didn't really possess a love for football. I think I was just a bigger kid that saw that I can get to college and get an education through it. And so junior year, got some small schools looking at me, some South Al's, some Troy. Didn't even think I was that great at football, but I think I was just a body that was enticing to some people. And then the long snapping is kind of what took it off. And so people were asking me, can I do that? And this was before camps, man. This was before Twitter. This was before camps. And so it was really just a college coach calling every now and then, like, hey, you play tight end, tackle, you can snap too, huh? I'm like, yeah, I can throw that thing back there. And so there was no camps. It was really just, well, cool. They took my word for it. And then, that's ultimately got me to Mississippi State. And I came there as a defensive end and a long snapper, never playing a single down of defense in high school. So it was pretty daunting coming into it. But snapping's what got me there. So I grew a major love for that. And, you've been in the specialist room. It's just a bunch of weirdos. And a former band kid, I fit right in specialist. And so day one, I sat down a niche and knew what I was meant to do. And that was to be around special teams.
Hey, man, it's funny what you're saying about the camp stuff, too, because I was just talking to our last guest, Matt Carrizosa, who's a Ray Guy finalist, and we were talking about when we were coming up, too, it's like there's camps out there for specialists. Like,
right.
No one had ever heard of that. You go on YouTube. That's how I learned. I went on YouTube, and I was just how to kick, how to punt. But it's like there was we found like one camp, and, nowadays – there's this whole culture of, they're all on Twitter. They can, they go to these camps together. I think it's really cool for specialists. And I wish there was something like that for us when we were going through that.
100%. And for coaches, it makes their job a whole lot easier. I know for me and you as well, like having all those guys in a group together and kind of see them compete against each other one-on-one, you're able to see who's got it and who doesn't. I don't know how they did it before, that day and age when me and you were coming up into it. I guess they just called people, hey, can you snap? Can you kick? I'm sure they would show up and watch you kick. That's probably how it was done back in the day. Show up to your high school campus, tell you to go put some balls in there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the other thing I like that you said too is sometimes it's not the most talented guys, and I'm not speaking on you personally. I'm talking about myself. It's like it's not the guy that's out there crushing every time that wins the spot. It's really if you hang around enough, or if you're around that enough. Personally, for me, I was a kicker all throughout high school. I get to JUCO, and I get an offer from a Division II school because they said, we saw you punt one time at a camp. I said, well, I'm not a punter. I'm a kicker. They said, well, no, you'll do all three.
Yeah,
and then,
it's the same thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's all the same. And then eventually I, take that, and that becomes my main thing, transfer to a Division I school. It's much like you, where I was a punter. much like you, it's like, you were just an offensive lineman, but you made that you were snapping too, but that's what gets you to that next level. So that's huge for guys.
I had no idea. Now that's like why they do it is, hey, this is the reason you're going to be able to go to college is kicking balls, punting them, and snapping them. And to me, that was never, ever brought to me coming up in high school. But now it's the way to go.
That's pretty cool, man. All right, so let me talk to you a little bit about the story of how I met you, because I thought it was to me, it was super cool, man. It's such a good time. I did know PB before, actually. Paul was a long snapper. He was trying to, he was buddies with my friend Bobby Daggett, who had snapped at Ole Miss and then came to UT Martin, where I was at. So that's how I knew him. But every spring when I was coaching high school ball, I was like, I need to go out and talk with these coaches. And Mississippi State was definitely one of the main schools that I wanted to go talk to. So I believe I hit you up via Twitter, and I came down to Starkville one time. This is 2018, I think. Yeah, in the spring of 2018.
Oh, yeah.
And, I remember you're like, go ahead, just wait in the football building. So I'm sitting there, and I mean, it's nice, man. You guys got the marble floors and everything, the secretary there. I'm sitting there eye to eye with the egg bowl, kind of just waiting for a minute. And then, they said, he'll be out in a second. You came out and said, sorry, man, we've been having this long special teams meeting. Come on up here. So I'll call you down this long hallway, and I get into this, the way I describe it is like a Godfather-like table, all right? You got this long, skinny room. It looked like a mini movie theater, and a Godfather-like table, and you're sitting there at the helm, right? Coach Shire there. And there's the most specialists I've ever seen in my life. I mean, there's 15.
I think we had 13.
Yeah, there's like 13 or 15 specialists all sitting there staring at me, and I expect to just sit down in the back and, kind of just watch everything that was going on. But, you said, come on in, introduce yourself. So kind of got up. I'm like, what's up, guys? In front of all 35 specialists you guys got in there. And I'm like, what's up, guys? Coach R. Kelly, nice to meet you. Sit back down. Right. Yeah. And then again, you're like, hey, man, aren't you in charge of Iceman kicking? I'm like, yeah, Iceman kicking too. And all 55 of your specialists nod back to me. But it was really cool because, you took the time out of your day to introduce, me, who's a nobody. And I really appreciated, a high school coach, that you could have just said, all right, sit down and just watch what we do here. And you had some great personalities in there too. I mean, Paul and, Tucker Day and Jace Christman were your guys starters, and Cody, who I actually ended up talking to for a while there. He's now at Austin P. All 105 specialists you guys had in there.
Yeah.
But I really appreciated how you guys made me feel at home down there.
Well, you're a specialist, man. You're part of that cult, I would call it almost. But man, I'm a guy. I'm super humble as far as I don't know everything at all, and I've been that guy sitting. My first year coaching, I'm in Valdosta, and we go to clinic with South Florida because the guy I was working for played there, and they just shoved me in the back of the D-line room. I try to ask the guy a question, and nothing against him. He's so used to that process of, hey, this coach is visiting from wherever he's going to sit in your meeting, that I'm like, hey, I want what? Boom, just hands me a CD and just, hey, it's all in there. And I'm like, okay, which it's just part of it, man. A lot of guys, and that guy's probably been coaching for 30 years at that point, so he's done that every year. And so, I mean, I've been that guy. I would want somebody to introduce me, and maybe not that because I'm not very good in front of crowds or whatever, but like just show that I'm there. I'm not just in the back, and talk to me and actually learn a little bit about me. So I guess just being in that position before, just mutual respect for another coach. And man, that room is anybody can walk in there and they're going to be part of it. So you're part of our room forever, and more than I do with kicking and punting and kickoffs and all that. So I gladly let you have the floor.
Well, I wouldn't say all that, but the one thing I did appreciate was how personable you really were. Talk to me a little bit while we're on the subject of your specialist room here. The fourth down dogs, for some that don't know about the Twitter, the fourth down dog. Tell me a little bit, or tell them a little bit what the fourth down dogs are all about.
All right. Handle fourth down dogs. What it is, you got a lot of receiver rooms, DB rooms, they call themselves like the School of North, they're NWO. They got their own persona. You got LSU's DBU. You got all these people that have like their niche, their thing, their persona. And so I was like, guys, why not make our own? All right, and we'll come up with a cool name, but let's just make our own trademark so that we can be out there, we can tweet. Because as you know, it's kind of a rat race with specialist accounts right now on Twitter. Is who can be the funniest, who can be the most creative. And so we came up with Fourth Down Dogs. Obviously, we do more than fourth downs. There's kickoffs. There's, I'm sure I'm missing something there. Anyway, but you got it. So we came up with Fourth Down Dogs, and I said, look, if we do this, we got to go all in. We got to have some funny posts. We got to have some content, and you can't miss kicks, and you can't punt badly, and we can't have any bad snaps. As soon as we do, this thing's coming right back in our face. And so they did a fantastic job of getting material. I controlled the password, and I gave it to Jace, who then gave it to one other person. So it wasn't like everybody could post. We made sure everything ran through me. Hey, this is what we're thinking about doing. The full house intro that we did, I wanted to see everything, and that was great. But they're so creative, and there's so many people in that room. There was a lot of good ideas bouncing around, and so ended up being really good for us. I think we stayed away from controversial posts, and I think we posted just enough that if we missed a kick, it didn't come back to haunt us to where, if you guys weren't making videos, you'd be making more kicks. I think we did Jace kind of led the whole thing. I think he did a great job of keeping the fans waiting. He didn't want to post daily. It wanted to be really good. And then we started including like scout team player of the day, like things like that. So it wasn't just a specialist account, but yeah, we got a sweet logo. We got the fourth down marker made into a cowbell. It was pretty sweet, but I want to keep that going. I think it's something unique that we have above other specialist groups out there, and something we can always kind of tweet out and hang our hat on, Fourth Down Dogs. Because I'm a big D-line guy, big defense guy. I talk about mentality, that dog mentality of keeping your head down, doing the work, fighting to the last second. Like specials, you can do that too. I know we're a lot more, it's more of a finesse movement. It's one chance, but we also got to kind of have that killer mentality of going out there and dominating. But yeah, that's Fourth Down Dogs. We're going to keep tweeting. We've been off the wagon for a little bit, but we got to get back to it.
No, I think you hit on the head with it's maybe it's not as much as a physical thing, but it is that mentality, right? And that mentality of just being tougher than anyone else. I mean, to me, and this is spinning off a little bit, but whenever I got bad weather situations or adverse situations, I thought I had the advantage because I had that mentality, right? That mentality that nothing's going to affect me, whereas other specialists, it may. And that's what you guys are all about.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, too, I thought you guys were the OG of the specialist account. I know there are a lot of imposters, but there's only one Fourth Down Dog.
That's right. So it's going to live forever. And actually, funny story, the person that started it originally was either Baker Swedenberg or Devin Bell. One of those two guys way back in 2013, 2012-ish created a Twitter account, and it was just some funny stuff. But, humble beginnings, I think, had like 300 followers, and now it may even been the same account that we just changed the name and all that, but now it's grown to a pretty big following. So we got to get that thing back rolling. I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah, man. It's a recruiting tool, right? It shows how close you guys are and how big of a family you guys are.
No doubt. Even though it's 67 of us, so
all 95. Talk to me a little bit now. I want to talk more about you. Tell me about your coaching influences and philosophy. We were just talking about earlier. You've been around some awesome people, man. Tell me about who has influenced, what you believe in, your special teams mentality.
Yeah. Well, writing out my answers here, I broke it down into 3 separate categories. So you got, who coaches that have influenced me as a person. So what wakes me up, what makes me want to coach would have to be, I think everybody can go back to this, my high school head coach, Tom Causey. And I mean, he was a father figure to me, a guy that I grew up without a father. And so I bounce around, I'd stick on to people like father figures and try to find one. And so this guy, man, he taught me everything that I believe in, everything that when times get tough, where I go to, this guy did everything for me. And well, to this day, kick me in the nuts if I try to talk good about him. But he's a guy that, as a coach, why I started, why I want to do it, what wakes me up, kind of my competitive drive is all from him. And then I think a guy on staff named Tony Hughes, me as a person, I think your faith kind of drives you. And so Tony Hughes was a guy that recruited me out of high school. He was at Mississippi State. And then now he's actually back on staff. And he's a guy that he everything he does is based on a divine power and his faith and what he can do for other people. And so he impacted me a lot, because I just didn't see that in the coaching profession. You don't see a guy that should be a preacher that's also a coach. And like, this guy, man, he is doing the Lord's work for sure. And everything boils down to faith to him. And, what's the big reason why you're doing stuff, and being thankful for being given the opportunities that the Lord gives you to be where you are. Another person, sorry, man, I got a bunch, but as a person, I think Tony Dungy is a good one. I read a lot of his books, a lot of his philosophies, why I want to coach, because I can impact people and use the platform to spread the word of the Lord. And, I think it's the only reason I'm here is because there's somebody watching over me, and because I have a purpose. And, Tony Dungy preaches that. And then I got one more, person that, who I am is Joey Jones, guy I work for in Mississippi State, 2018, 2019. He is he had a lot similarities to me growing up, why he got into football and why he does it. So he's a guy that I continuously call, even though I don't work for him anymore, but I'm going to go back to it. I call him all the time, asking for advice. If I'm in a situation or if somebody says something to me, hey, how would you react to this? And then as a coach, influences are Paul Bear Bryant. I grew up in Tuscaloosa for a part of my life, and obviously he's enshrined over there. But reading a lot of his books, man, as a coach, he's kind of who I want to be. Everybody says do the little things, but you read his books and see some of the stuff he did. It is ridiculous, the amount of pressure and responsibilities he put on players, and ended up putting them in good situations because of how he challenged them. Another coach that, I like to model myself after is Nick Saban. Never met him, but read a lot of his books. Mad respect for the guy at Alabama to see what they do. When you see something like that, they're a dynasty. There's no question about it. Obviously, he's doing something right. So I try to take him here and there, where there's video clips, seeing stuff on the field. A lot of his philosophies, man, for special teams, I respect. And so he's a guy I hope to be like one of these days. And then one more, I just want to add this in there. My coaching skills, all right? So influences of why I am where I'm at are strictly because of James Villano, who taught me everything there is to know on Visio and PowerPoint, all right? And told me, Alan, you're not going to get far if you can't finesse on PowerPoint and Visio and have the sweetest stuff out there. So he's a guy, he got me into coaching. He's a mentor of mine. He freaking drilled it into me day one. Look, you got to be a good coach, but Alan, if you want to get to the position to where you can be a good coach, you got to catch people's eye with your PowerPoints and your video and your playbook stuff. And then lastly, Chris Bonio, who is a Excel wizard. He is now at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as their specialist coach. He put me in a good spot, man, as far as how to chart kickers, how to chart punters, how to chart snappers. And he did exactly what he did in the NFL when he was at Mississippi State with me in 2018. And he got me pretty sweet on that Excel and that Visio. So I had to throw that out there, man, because that gets overlooked sometimes, guys that taught you the nitty-gritty stuff.
Oh, man, it's so overlooked. And I think a couple of things. Like, I do love the reading part that you were talking about. I know, don't want to go too far back, but you were saying, you read this guy's work and that guy's work. That is so important, is to always be striving to do better and learn more, and it comes from reading people's, their work and what you said about that. Also, yes, one thing I'm realizing as a new coach coming up is like, same thing, Excel, Visio. That stuff is so important, man. You don't realize it until you get into it.
Until it's too late sometimes too, yeah.
Yeah, and that's awesome, man. So I'm glad you listed all those people because those are
Dude, there's just so many, and it goes back to the whole, growing up without a dad. It's like you stick onto these male figures, these coaching figures, these father figures that teach you things. And so I'm a sponge, and it's kind of annoying. Like every person I come in, all 8 of those guys I just mentioned, I've never met, 5 or 6 of them, but all these guys, like I'm trying to take things from them. And every call, it gets so annoying that I talk to a special teams coordinator or an analyst or a GA. I always ask, like, hey, what are you doing for philosophy? What are you doing for your fall? And I just want to know, like, I don't know. I don't have any family members that were coaches. I don't have anybody that was like, hey, you need to be a coach. Like, I just kind of got into it by accident. And now I'm trying to figure it out and do the best. And so until I can meet Saban and Dungy, I'm just going to read about them.
Man, I love that. And also, it's something I think that's been very important in your life too. Is your faith and dealing with loss. I think those kind of go together. And I'll let you talk on it. But you've faced adversity in your life, and talking about the loss of your dad and then the heart condition you're going through last year. Can you talk a little bit about that and what helped you face that adversity? What helped you get over or get through stuff like that?
Yeah, definitely. There's a really good quote out there. It's adversity introduces a man to himself. And so really, like, if you put it into your terms, like our age, it's like, I mean, you don't know who you are until you're really put in the fire, like until you're challenged. Like you don't know what kind of guy you are. And I had to stop playing football. Only thing I ever knew, like only reason I went to Mississippi State was to play football. I was not a scholarship guy. I was preferred walk on, but I was that guy that was gonna, work tirelessly until I became a guy that had a role in that team of some sort. And so I didn't have any plans, man. It was just ball. That's all I wanted to do. Freshman year, midway, I got told I couldn't play football anymore due to a heart condition that they discovered while doing a checkup. I had some issues during a practice, and so that we went to UAB, got some tests done, and sure enough, they found that I had the same condition that my father passed away from, and it was kind of progressing into the same exact reason that he passed away. And so I had no clue that I had this condition, that I had those symptoms, like why I was having the symptoms I was having. Thought I was just getting tired. And so, there's a reason for everything. But I faced adversity really quickly, man. I'm at a school that I only came to play football. So I turn around, it's October and I don't know what to do. Like I don't play football anymore. And thankfully, man, the staff was like, hey, we understand this is a family. Like these are your brothers. So if you want to stick around, you don't have to do anything for us. You're more than welcome. Like, hey, come sit in meetings, come eat with us. And that was Coach Mullen. I thank him a ton. And Chris Wilson was my D-line coach. And he was like, look, man, I can't imagine what you're going through. Keep coming around. Maybe we can help you in some way. And then that ultimately led to me coaching as a student coach. Worked with the D-line just because that's what I knew. And then probably junior year, started helping the special teams more and more. And that's when I really, really fell in love with it. Just because I love that room, love those guys. So that was some adversity I faced very quickly. Didn't exactly know how to handle adversity at that point. A lot of things had gone well for me. And like kind of, man, I guess not knowing made it good for me. When something bad happens, you just got to knock it off and keep going until something good happens. And so I found out a lot about myself very quickly, man. Am I either going to sit back and learn how to longboard or freaking, get deep into my engineering studies, or am I going to stick around football and see, hey, man, I love this sport. Like, why not just stick around and see if there's something else I can do with it? And sure enough, man, I stuck around and ended up being great for me and gave me a passion and gave me a direction to go after I graduated. A lot of people don't know what they want to do, man. A whole lot of people I'm finding out my age that are changing jobs right now, that are looking for other things to get fulfillment. And me and you, man, we've already found out what we want to do, our passion. And so, going back to last year's deal. So I've monitored this thing. I've done a good job, changed my diet. For 5 years, been exercising the way they told me to. I can't pound weights anymore, but I was doing things, staying active. And then last, I'd say we were January 2019. went for another checkup, just a routine one, and they did the measurements, did my echocardiogram, all that cool stuff, and said, look, man, we've monitored this for long enough. Like it's gotten to a point where we don't know if you're going to, wake up the next day, because my valve is so big. So you got to figure out a time to get this fixed. And I'm like, fixed? What does that mean? Like, we're going to have to go in there and I'll save y'all the description, but they're going to have to go in there and get it fixed. And so, man, my world was kind of shifted. But I think facing that adversity when I was a freshman kind of helped me out with that. And, football, man, it teaches you life lessons. Like, you fall down, you get up. The guy that works the hardest is going to come out on top, and you're going to have to face those sudden changes, and it's how you react to those. They either get you beat by 40 or let you come back and win. And so, found that out. Tried to say, hey, is there any way we can get around this? And they're like, not unless you want to quit your job and kind of sit around your house for 6 months with monitor this thing again. And so I said, no, that's not going to be it, Hoss. And so we decided in May to get this thing fixed. I talked to Coach Moorhead, and he was incredible, man. He's out, like, stop. Why are you even asking me if this is okay? Like, go handle your business. Don't worry about spring ball. And I said, look, I need spring ball. Like, I need to, have football around me, keep my mind off things. And so he was like, yes, do what you got to do. Coach from a golf cart, coach from the tower, do whatever you can. I told my specialist, told Coach Jones, and everybody they rallied around me, helped me stay positive through it all. And, man, I didn't even think about it. Didn't think about it until probably May 1st on my birthday. And then May 3rd, they had the surgery. So I got open heart surgery in May. Didn't know what was going to happen after that. I was optimistic. Coach Moorhead saved my spot. I'll be back in June. He laughed, but I was serious. I'm like, look, man, I don't know how long this is going to take to get bounced back, but I'm going to coach next year. And he was all for it. He's like, look, we'll do whatever we can for you. And, had the surgery in May. 3 months later, man, I was running back on the practice field. It was incredible. And so I'll save you all save you all the nasty stuff that went on. But it's a mental battle. Every day I had to wake up, not being able to walk, not being able to do anything but sit there and eat, really, and breathe. And even breathing, man, you had to learn how to do it again, had to get strong enough to where I could sit up, man. It's some crazy stuff you go through, but it's a mental war every day. You got to get up, and you got to do a little more than you did the day before. All right. So there was no answer to me. And the 27-year-old having open heart surgery, like, there is no blueprint. I called a bunch of people trying to get some advice. Only people I could get answers from were in their 60s, 70s. And so, I was able to kind of do it on my own. Wrote a lot of stuff down about mentality, and man, it has put me above a lot of people, I think, having to go through what I did. Just a mental battle, just you and yourself, man. It's the mind is a battlefield, and I was able to come out on top a lot of those days, and got to where I could get back on the field in 3 months for day one of fall camp. So I was very fortunate, but man, that adversity that I faced, there's not a lot people can do to me that's going to shake me now. And so going through it, man, I think football is not near as I don't want to say important. That's not the right word, but I definitely kind of see what's important and what's not. And so being able to keep coaching is an absolute blessing. And definitely open heart surgery has given me an advantage over a whole lot of coaches out there. When things get bad, they're not all that bad. And so always got to find a way. If that, there are certain days, and I hate to keep talking about this, but I'm writing a book too, man, about this whole thing. I got some great stuff, but one day I wake up, I can't eat. All right, so I'm gonna drink as many bottles of water as I can. I'm gonna beat. I wrote down, man. I had the steps the day before, the amount of water I drank, the amount of food I ate, calories I burned, and I was keeping a log, and had to beat myself every single day. If I couldn't walk that day, shoot, Mom, give me the 2-pound dumbbells. I'm gonna do, 100 curls that day. Like, there were certain things, if you couldn't do something, then I had to, find a way to compete in another way. And so, man, it was great. It was all good things from that surgery, for sure.
Wow. And what's the status now? Where are you at now?
Okay, so I had a checkup, final, year in review from the surgeon, from another couple of experts, and I'm ready to roll, man. Everything is, all systems are go. The whole purpose of that year review was to see how the stress levels I went through last season, the physical, I guess, toll that I took from coaching, how it would affect everything. Everything checked out, man. All the tests were great. Guy said I looked like I'm in great shape, which is positive because I came in a little heavy. But everything checked out. They said, "Look, man, you're going to keep coaching as long as you want to," and I'm happy. So all systems are go.
Man, I'm so happy to hear that. Now, personally, I've definitely been through some hard times, nothing compared to that. But that's what I love about this profession. And that's one of the reasons why I do this podcast is talking to people who have dealt with, situations way harder than me. I mean, to me, that is so inspirational, man. And I love hearing your story. You're 100% right. You have an advantage over everyone else, because of what you've fought through before. But to me, it's great to hear that story because it inspires me to do more and do better. Yeah. And man, I can't wait to hear when your book drops, man, because I'm gonna be all over.
Yeah. It was a lot of that I was able to read at crap time because that's all I could do. But read a lot and watched every single. I'm guaranteeing you, scoured the web, bro. Every special teams, talk, philosophy, drill work, everything was watched. Promise you that. Took notes on it. And so it was awesome, man. I read everything, watched everything. And then, going back to it, I miss this. One of the things I love about it is now as a coach, I can kind of present to players like, look, you think this is bad? Like, and not that I hate talking about myself more than anybody, but like, dude, this could be a lot worse. Like, you getting to run on that field and play football is a blessing. And how dare you ever take it for granted and not want to go out there and play because, a guy that got it taken from him and then almost had coaching taken from him, almost had his life taken from him. You really have a better outlook on life. And so I can kind of hold things above their head, as bad as that sounds now, but yeah.
You're 100% right in that thinking too. And if you were my coach, I would be inspired to do better, man. So that's awesome.
That's all I want to do is when you see me, think of a big old scar and just say, all right, I'm gonna go punt the crap out of the ball now. Like, don't take any reps for granted, for sure, is what I tell them.
Tell me, too. I mean, I know this is a special teams podcast, but, man, I love talking about philosophy and I love talking about motivation, all that stuff. Is there something you do mentally now or something you train yourself in to keep your stress levels down? For example, I meditate. I would try to meditate at night. Is there anything you do or any mental techniques you do to keep yourself, pretty calm?
Yeah, well, there's some medical techniques for sure. Now they prescribe me a few. It's a beta blocker, and so that I'm telling you, over everything that helps with stress levels. But definitely waking up earlier so I can kind of, I don't know, like it's better to see what's ahead that day instead of kind of being boom, here's a text, like got to have this done. So I kind of like to be awake earlier, and this is what I tell my players too. Just be awake so that you're not surprised by stuff. Be awake, and at least your mind's ready to take things on. You're not waking up with something that you got to do. But meditation's huge for me, man. I need to do a better job of it. Probably need to ask you for some techniques. But all I do right now is I just try to sit. I don't have any like special Indian style sitting or like how I hold my hands, but like 15 minutes usually what I go with is just kind of reflection and calmness. A lot of times I'll throw some music on there, some easy listening. A lot of times it's some gospel. A lot of times it's, Disney playlists. I'm all about it. Things that put me in a happy place, almost like Happy Gilmore, go to your happy place. But I don't know how to explain it. It's weird. It's like my brain was like rewired. If adversity hits me now and I'm kind of like, all right, like there's no like crazy increase in mental awareness. I'm just like, sure. Like to me, it's just the next step. It's not like a crazy adversity taking me by surprise. So I don't know what it was, but meditation is definitely, going back to it. For sure.
Well, I think some people can take that as, why me or why now or why this, but I mean, this is your superpower, man. I mean, like you said, there's nothing you can face that will ever fluster you again.
Yeah, definitely.
That's really cool. And
Now, I don't want people trying me out there. I don't want people faking punts and onside kicking me in the future, but
trying to
yeah.
stress you.
No, yeah, I'd call it a superpower for sure. It's good and bad because a lot of times they're like, why are you not freaking out right now? I'm like, well, nothing I can do in the moment, like Jace missing a couple kicks of practice or something. Like, well, it's not my leg out there. I'll do what I can with the film, and we'll go on the turf field here and make sure it's fixed, but I can't do nothing right now.
And to me, that's what makes a great specialist coach too, man.
Yeah.
These guys see, especially for specialists, right, where it's all about confidence. And it's all about being level-headed. You got football players, naturally are going to get hyped, pumped up before games. Man, I was trying to be as cool, calm, and collected. We run on the field, and we want to keep a slow pace because we don't want to get ourselves, heart beating fast. And I see a coach that is cool, calm, and collected after I miss a kick. I'm going to respond to that a lot better than someone who's throwing their hat or shaking their head. It's something
that's really good to hear. It's really good to hear. Because Jace, I feel like his first year, he was maybe used to that. And so every time he'd miss, which wasn't a lot, Jace is a great kicker if he's listening, but he would turn back and be expecting me to blow up or something. And every time I'm not even looking at him, I'm looking at, where the next spot is. I'm making sure our freaking equipment guys got the next ball. But I think, man, there's a huge difference from year one, 2018 to year two. And I think that was part of it. Just give it I knew he was going to make the next kick. So it's as a kicker, did that help you out at all? I don't know. Did you think your coach had confidence in you most of the time?
In the start of my career, no, not at all.
Okay.
That was definitely tough for me. I went to Division II school, and it was a totally different, on the other side of the coast. It was at HBCU, so it was a little bit of a big adjustment for me.
Yeah.
We had some great coaches, but as far, they weren't the most kicker friendly or specialist friendly.
100%. Yeah.
And there's different ways of motivating everyone. But I think it took me going through that situation to learn, all right, here's the right way to deal with the specialist, and here's, not the right. I ended up transferring to a FCS program, and I felt very confident, and I felt like my coaches had the utmost confidence in me. But those actions, I think, are very reassuring, especially for a young kicker. I mean, to me, my job is let's pump this kid's head up, or, let's make sure he's confident, because when he gets in there, there's always little things that are going to try to distract him or tear him down. But if I can be a voice of confidence to him, that's going to aid him. So
one less thing he's got to worry about. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's kind of what Randy Brown, the Ravens special teams coach, said about on the Fourth Down podcast with Brian Jackson, who's I know about him. It's a great podcast. But it's really I'm there to, be the one who's doing the thinking as far as where we're going to place punts, and just overall be a source of confidence for my specialists and back them, So that's really good. All right, well, now we're getting into specialists anyway. Let's talk about special teams in general.
Yeah.
Some people, and of course in the SEC, they understand it's a big deal. And a lot of places I've been at too, it's a big deal. But some coaches have a older perspective of how they look at special teams, where it's kind of just that thing on the side that you do. Tell me why is special teams important, and why is coaching long snappers so important to having a great team?
Oh yeah. Well, I'd say there's 800-ish college football programs out there, right? From D1 all the way to JUCO, NAIA. So that many head coaches, I guarantee you ask them, is special teams important? They're going to say, it's priority. It's most important. They're going to say it. It's everywhere. Every coach you ask. But for a fact, there's action over words, man. You can tell when it actually means something to somebody instead of just saying it, because it looks good to say it. But, when something happens in a game and then they blow up on you, hey, you weren't part of the game, but whatever. You can kind of see how important it is to them when they only care about it on the game day kind of thing. And I've been around some coaches that really actually do believe how important it is and incorporate it in their culture. And that's what I'm leading to. So to me, special teams is the most important aspect of a football team and a head coach, to me, strictly because it identifies your team, and it tells people what your team's culture is. All right. And whether or not it gets brought up or not, as a guy that watches tape, when I watch in Alabama, I can see they're driven by that special teams culture where I've heard, maybe it's all bull crap, but you don't play on offense and defense until you play on special teams. I can see that because I see killers out there. I see people that have a freaking, an actual joy running down on kickoff and purpose. And you look at teams like Kansas State and that team, that is their culture. They are a special teams driven team, and I think, that was probably a bold statement what I just said, but to me, it's extremely important because it does identify who you are as a team. All right. And, it goes back to effort. To me, special teams is strictly an effort play. I can have all the scheme dialed up in the world. Whoever wants it more is going to win the rep. And I've seen it. Maybe I'm a young guy and haven't watched that much tape. I've been around it a while. And I can say, from a student assistant to where I am now, you can tell who wants it and who doesn't. And that guy typically is going to win the rep. And, man, it's an effort play all in all. And so, to me that and one more thing about it, to me it's 1/3 of the game, right? It's 1/3 of going back. It's 1/3 of the game. So to me, and maybe I'm thinking too simple here, if we win our special teams phase every game, that means offense and defense, just one of those two got to be on their game that day. All right. And then it's like a vote in Senate, right? 2/3 majority, you're going to win the game. Now, I know there's a lot more factors, but in my opinion, if we take care of special teams phase, we win our phase of the game. And offense wins their phase of the game. Defense just has a rough day. We're going to win that game. Same thing. Special teams wins. Defense plays lights out. Offense is having some trouble. We're going to win that game. So to me, it's that simple. And that's up to the coordinator and the players to win that special teams phase. But to me, it's the easiest phase to win, strictly because a guy like me who is just absolutely ridiculously in love with special teams, and that's all I want to do. Obviously, I'll coach some other stuff, but special teams is why I got into coaching. It's something I'm going to do until I'm out of coaching, whether I'm a DFO or a corners coach or a recruiting coordinator. I'm going to be involved in special teams, and I don't know. To me, I can just see there's such an advantage to it. So that's kind of, I guess, my philosophy on it.
I love that, man. And you know what? The cool thing that I liked about it too is the way you broke it down, the 2/3 thing. I've been heard to say this a lot, but Coach DePrado, who is at Arkansas and he's at South Florida now.
South Florida now, yeah.
Yeah. He said 49% of the yardage in a game is determined by special teams with your punts and your kickouts.
Oh, yeah.
And this game is such a battle of field position and yardage. So why wouldn't you put so much effort? 100% for me too. When I watch the film, I put on the tape, you can tell when a team cares about their special teams units, and that normally dictates how well they perform in a game too. So
sure.
You're right on the mark with that. I agree.
Yeah, and if we get more into it, I'm just like him. I love stats. So I got all the stats for percentage of plays, on special teams a year compared to a defensive player, the importance of that play, the yardage of each play. People put that on their first day slide. Average special teams play is 42.6 yards or whatever. Yeah, it's a whole freaking field length every play. It comes down to that culture of getting guys excited. I personally, and if I do get a chance to be a coordinator one day, I'm going to ask that head coach about playing starters and special teams, because every year I do a study of the SEC just because I'm in it, but I'll probably keep doing the SEC, their offensive, defensive starter numbers on special teams, right? So in 2018, Alabama had 11, Texas A&M had 12, we had 6. A&M and Alabama were the top 2 special teams units, I believe, in efficiency, or one of those ranking systems. And it correlated directly, right? You have more starters on special teams, you're going to be better at special teams. And so to me, that's all culture, and that's all coming down from the head coach because it doesn't matter what old Alan Tucker, the coordinator, says. It's got to come from top down. And so, yeah, that's definitely a question I'm going to ask the head coach if I ever get a chance to interview to be a coordinator. Is like, are you going to let me play these guys on here? Because something I always ask the coordinators is like, you give me your linebacker, your starting Will. He's going to be tired for that first defensive play. But would you rather start at the 18 or, the 28? And so that's kind of what you got to look at. And, yes, I'm going to get him out. I just need him for those first few kickoffs, right? I'll roll the backup in, I promise. But you got to set the tone, man, with kickoff and kickoff return and needing those guys to start a game at least, because that's how you freaking win field position is the beginning of the game and just taking it over from there.
Is there a number that you were talking about the way to measure importance and stuff? Is there a number that you found that measures importance of special teams, or a percentage that measures importance of special teams?
As in like what number of players?
Was there a study you did? I mean, I guess that'd be efficiency, special teams efficiency.
Oh, yeah.
Is there any that you've seen?
Man, I'm going to be honest. I don't know. I may be hearing the question wrong. You talking about like all the special teams rankings and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Man.
Or anything you've done research-wise. I think that's a really good stat to look at, is how many starters. That's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one. To me, you look at their kickoff and their punt net on each one. That's a pretty telling thing there. But no, I got a ton of them. I just can't think of a specific one right now. There is a great thing that Kirby Smart did of how he measures his special teams kind of rank that year. And it's nothing that ESPN does or NCAA.com or whoever the stats people are. It's so great, man. But he has each phase kind of their ranking in the conference and then sums it up with a number. And I thought that was awesome. So it's like net punt. It's not average punt. It's, drive start average rather than kickoff return average, things like that. So I wish I could have them laid out for you right now, but there's a lot of good stuff. And recently, man, I've gone away from field position battle because a lot of that you can't help. If they go 3 and out and, get a couple false starts or drop the snap or get sacked, a lot of stuff we can't control as a special teams unit, interceptions, things like that. But last couple of years developed a couple things as far as hidden yardage battle and explosive play battle that I think measures it a lot better. We can get into that another day. But
yeah, exactly. That's awesome, man. That's exactly the stuff I want to hear about. Talk to me a little bit about long snappers. A lot of people, and this is what I've realized from my coaching, is if you don't know something, you're not going to overcoach it or spend a lot of time on it. So, long snappers, a lot of people, it gets swept behind the rug, or it's just kind of like, put the ball. I mean, believe me, I started out at high school, and what I saw there, was just like sometimes made my mind explode,
Oh, God, yeah.
Telling long snappers, your butt's coming up. I mean,
I was a high school snapper, so I know your frustration.
Oh, my God. And the first year I actually did it, I took full charge of the long snappers, and we had a great Marlon, I forget his last name. Anyway, ended up going to Gardner Webb, and he did a great job. He's a D tackle. I got a full scholarship to Gardner Webb, but he did a phenomenal job snapping because we worked at the essentials. Tell me, why is it important that you have a good long snapper?
Yeah, man. And I'm fighting, man. Fighting every year. There's not a lot of guys that are in high school, like day one, are ready to rock and roll. In the SEC, I think at past 2 schools I was at, yes, there are plenty of guys that are ready to roll out of high school, get on that field, snap, do a great job. In the SEC, man, it is from the crowd noise to the pressure that you're in to having to do either a cadence with the voice or a hand. There's so many different things, laces on field goals. It's so hard to get a guy straight out of high school ready to rock and roll in college. And so the scholarship conversation, man, as far as the importance of a snapper, right now I'm torn because I was in a system that you come as a preferred walk-on, you play, whether it's the last half of the season or you have to play the whole season as a redshirt freshman, whatever it is. Then you get put on scholarship. All right. And I think the main reason behind that was because, man, you don't know if this guy's going to have the yips when he's playing freaking Baton Rouge and there's 102,000 people screaming and he throws one over their head. Like, you don't know what they're made of until they're actually put out there. And so personally, I think that depending on where you're at, you got to at least reserve a scholarship for a guy within the first couple of years of him being there, I think. Because you got to keep him there in the summer to really mold him. If he's not going to start that first year, a lot of things that you got to get him doing that summer into his next year. So rather than him going home, and having to work as cutting grass or whatever, have that scholarship ready to put him on if he's going to be the guy or whatever. But I think my personal philosophy is having a guy. Sorry, I'm making sure they'll let me stay in here. All right, cool. We're great. All right. All right, I'm locked in now. I think you got to have a guy that can cover, where I'm at. I think above everything, this kid's got to have good size and can run. I will fix the snapping stuff later on. But having a guy that's an athlete that can run and actually be a little athletic out there trying to tackle a guy, fit him up is huge. But let's go into – so building a snapper, right? Is that what we're about to talk about?
Yeah. But real quick
Okay.
before you get into that, I had two, and that's good because you making more questions for me, man. I love that.
Yeah.
Is there a way? I feel like as I'm slowly becoming a better, because believe me, I am nowhere near where I want to be as far of a master of specialists, a masters of kicker or punters, even. Even though I did it, I'm still learning more stuff, and I learned that stuff by talking to greats like you or experts out there. But I am slowly starting to notice more things I can watch in film or things I can learn. For me personally, is there a way that you can figure out what long snappers are made of? Now, granted, like you said, until you get them live, you can't really figure out what they're about, but is talking to their coaches or teachers, and figuring what's this guy's, headspace as how he handles failure. Can you figure out stuff like that?
Oh, yeah. That's so like I have a list of questions I ask a head coach when I call about a guy.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's mentality, man. How is he in a weight room? What other free positions does he play? Because I love Coles and Rubio, what they do with guys. Man, they're so ahead of like where we were at, where I was at. But I'm not going to want a guy that all he does is snap for his high school team. It's just part of it. I want a guy that's going to stick his freaking face in there. That plays another position. That he's athletic. He's got to move his hips. He's got to do certain movements. He's got to tackle somebody. That's the first question I ask is, all right, what other position does he play? I know he's a good snapper. So, yeah, I go in with that. And then I always ask mentality, how is he in the weight room? How does he handle adversity? Have you ever seen him get the yips, like, roll a ball back there in a big situation, things like that. And so rarely do I get bad answers, but those are a couple of things I like to add. Also, does he play another sport so I can know what the heck I was doing movement-wise. But, yeah, because like I told you, I'm blessed to know a little bit about snapping where I can coach a guy up once he gets here. So I like them to be kind of all around before we get here. Like, I don't want to have to teach the guy how to freaking tackle a guy. I know I will gladly. We'll do the fundamentals, but I don't want his first time tackling somebody to be, at our fall camp on a dummy. So that's kind of where I'm at with that.
Is there a situation where you've seen guys and you're like, man, I would scholarship this guy right out of high school? I mean,
100%.
This guy's a dude. What have you seen from those guys?
Body, usually his body type. Dude's already freaking rocked up, can run, can move his hips, great flexibility. I mean, I love tight end bodies. Like, I love a guy that's pretty big so he can hang in there on field goal. And can also get off of a hold-up, things like that. So, yes, I've seen plenty guys that I wish I could offer, like a receiver coach, just, hey, we like you a lot, we want to bring you up here. But, I do love working a little harder to get a guy because that's always how it ends up, man. You're up against a lot of I don't know how, man, but a lot of times the smaller schools that get those scholarships to go get specialists and whatever they're doing, like, I love it. But a lot of times I'm fighting against a, FCS or a group of 5 that's giving the guy a 4-out scholarship, and I'm offering the guys preferred walk-on and selling the dream of getting put on scholarship, which, again, that comes down to mentality. Can you bet on yourself to come in the SEC West, beat out who I got here, and get put on scholarship? And if they say yes, then I know what they're about, And I've been told plenty of times, no, coach, I'm going to stick with this when I ask that question. So it's not like they're all just going to say, yeah. I've heard plenty of guys say, coach, I think I'm just more comfortable going into already a full-ride scholarship. And so,
and that's tough for you, right? Because, I mean, you can't really blame them in a sense. They're getting a full-ride scholarship offer. And to me, for those small schools, I mean, that is good for them because they're getting a great quality snapper, But like our boy PB, I knew all about Paul's journey, and even UT Martin was talking to, and some smaller schools were interested in him, but he bet on himself. And Mississippi State
took me by surprise, man. And I love that. That's exactly what I want. A guy that's got some crap to him. I won't say the S word, but a guy that knows his ability, puts his freaking head down and works, man. Like we're going through fall camp, and he's like a 3 or a 4 for me, and I'm timing. I'm like, God, this guy is a 6'8", 6'9" every single snap. Like, which that's good. That's really good speed. But the fact that it never, ever was different blew my mind. Just consistent. The spot is always the same. His speed's always the same. And that's what led me to say, Coach Jones, like, I know it's crazy, but let's look at this kid as a 2 right now. Let's see him. Let's throw him in the team reps. Let's throw him in, field goals, see if he can get perfect laces and all that. And then Paul freaking took off with the opportunity and ended up doing so many great things for me. He's the most productive snapper in the SEC without a doubt. And so this next year, I mean, he's going to light it up again. And doing it all undersized, that's what I love about it. The guy doesn't freaking back away from anybody. He got put on his tail, from 320-pound nose tackles on field goal and just got right back up every single time, talked a little crap to him, and then snapped a perfect pearl, So I love that kid to death, man. He's exactly what you want mentally. So.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, right? You want a scrappy guy. He just scrappy, mentally what he can do and how he can compete, man. So that's just what you're talking about when you're finding those guys in the rough. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I'm out for you guys. All right, I know you're ready to get into it. So break down some man, this is the moment I've been waiting for.
Yeah.
Talk to me all about long snapping. Don't miss any details, but explain it if I was a beginner, or I didn't know.
No doubt. No doubt. Thankfully, I'm at the level I'm at, so I don't have to go really, really deep into like all the logistics of it. But let's say you're a high school coach, right, building a long snapper. First is like, all right, let me put this in the right words. All right, you need kind of an athlete. I think you and I have both seen a lot of guys that claim to be long snappers, and that's their only role in their high school team, and it kind of shows. So find an athlete. All right, and then the one thing you can do to weed them out, get them to stand freaking 10, 15 yards from a guy, throw a football, all right? If he can't throw a spiral, how do you expect him to throw a spiral between his legs, all right? And that, to me, watching some of these kids warm up on these, these big camps, these the Rubio, the Coles, and all that, these jokers can't even throw spirals, just throw and catch with their friend. And so, to me, that is day one. If this kid can't throw a spiral, I'm sorry, man. Like, try O-line, like, figure out, put some weight on, do something. And so that's kind of how you weed them all out at the beginning. After that, you can kind of see how flexible they are strictly by them getting in the stance, man. So ideally, you want to have a flat back before you snap. If this kid can figure out a way to get a flat back before he snaps, that means there's something wrong with his flexibility where he can't even, get in that position. A lot of times it's like they got to do a lot more than most people to get the ball back there, whether it's put it way out in front, making them have their butt up a little bit, or, have it a little bit under them. So I think it's all about, flexibility, having an athlete that can throw a freaking spiral, make sure they're flexible enough to actually get their arms and hands through their legs, there's a lot of guys that it's like they're fighting themselves when they're snapping. So, and then after that, it's just, really, I'm trying to think. I didn't know I was going 101 fundamentals here. But yeah, so we'll start with that, right? And then when you get to the snapping part of it, it's can he be consistent every time with his hands? And so by that, I mean, there's a lot of things. I'll kind of dial it back a little bit. How he approaches the ball. So is his feet different every time? Where he puts the ball when he's got it out in front of him, is that different every time? Find a kid that can at least be consistent with that, because then you can work with him from there. But the follow through, man, is how far can his hands get back, and are they even? And so that's kind of a way to weed out more guys and see who can kind of do it. And one of the biggest misconceptions is having your wrist touch when you follow through. That doesn't have to happen. Make sure they're not off. You know what I'm saying? Like this, like one is not above the other. Try to get as even hands as you can. And so that's just kind of how to build a snapper as a high schooler. Get a guy that can just get it back there. And then after that, you can start tweaking, everything from where he has the ball at the beginning to his feet, widening the stance, narrowing the stance. I think once you see who can get it back there, then you can start tweaking those little things. Because a lot of times the guys just have too wide of a base, or a lot of times way too narrow of a base. Because that is what allows you to get your whole, arms, head all the way through on that follow through. And I hate it because I wasn't taught by anybody. Me and my brother started throwing balls back there, and we didn't watch YouTube or anything. I was just like, this feels good, I'm gonna throw it back there. So a lot of times, I kind of get mixed up with teaching the day one stuff, which is why I'm very, very happy I'm at college, because these guys have at least gone through those day one things. But let's talk about a college snapper. So when they get to me, I want to see how efficient they can be with their snap. So limited wasted movement. By that I mean, flat back. With a flat back, the ball is gonna be a little closer to your body, just in general. It's gonna be a little bit ahead of your nose, not directly under you. And from there, let's see how twitchy you can get back there with the limited movement. All right, get it out of your hands as quick as possible and down the field. And so that's what I like to work on first is, all right, let's go side camera, front camera, back camera. Let's get in your day one stance. Let me tweak it a little bit, see how it feels. But let's see, how we can limit the movement as most as possible, and keep you a good snapper. And so a lot of that comes into, when you whip the ball, when you go towards your nose first and throwing it. So if a guy's going really far, up to his head, then throwing it, let's move that ball a little closer to you. So we're taking that whole big whip out of it, getting it closer to your body. Now you're still doing the whip, but it's closer to you, so it's getting out faster. And I think I need some film, but we can talk through all this.
No, you're good. Let me stop right there when you're talking about that, because I'm aware of where you're at. I know there's going to be long snappers that are listening. They know exactly what you're talking about here.
Yeah.
When you coach, first thing I've always, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're way more than me about this subject, but the first thing that moves is you start to tuck your chin, and your hands on the ball come up and back simultaneously.
Right. Yeah.
Do you teach them? I mean, how high up are you telling them to go? You don't want to waste energy going vertically, right? Yeah. You want your energy to go back. So what do you teach them? I mean, I'm sure you're not that nitpicky with them. But what do you teach them as far as their hands starting out that snap? Yeah,
so a lot of it comes into just having it a little more under you, closer to your body. So that takes out a lot of that coming up. It forces you to only go in that whip motion, so forward and back at the same time, because you don't have it way out in front. A thing that I did wrong a lot of the time was I thought that it needed to be on this, just because I didn't know. I mean, I just snapped the ball. I never had anybody break it down for me until I got to college of what I'm doing. I thought it needed to be point A to point B, boom, just one linear line back. Well, that's impossible. You can't just slide the ball, straight back. You have to pick it up. You got to start that whip motion, to to your face and then backwards at the same time. And so it's limiting that movement and getting it more twitchy, if that makes sense, so faster. Because, it's simple science. The quicker, the faster the whip, the faster the ball's going to get back there. And so that all comes into, once they get here, getting them really developed in the weight room.
I'm right there.
A lot of times, man, you really can't teach twitch.
Oh, yeah. That
Like a guy named Joel Baldwin, who was my starter in 2018, the only reason he was on the field was because of how twitchy he was, how he started when he got here, ball was way out in front of him. He thought that's how he generates speed. But worked his tail off in the weight room, got huge, fish bellies on his forearms, big shoulders, did a lot of reaction work with the bands, moved the ball closer to him, so a little more under him, and just, was the quickest I've ever seen getting the ball off the ground and out of his hands. So, So I guess just taking out wasted movement would be the biggest thing with all that.
What do you tell them with their, I've heard a lot as far as when you're starting that snap, activate your core, tuck your chin, tell me what you're doing with your head and your core when you're starting out that snap.
Yeah. So because we are most guys in college are look snappers. By that, I mean, you got to look back there because it's so loud and look for the hand cadence, right? Or some people do, they'll lift their foot in the NFL, I know for sure. So that takes out a lot of the guys who pick their head up and then snap, and they try to use that head as momentum. And, it's a myth that I prove guys wrong with all the time, because they'll come in as guys that lift their head before the snap and then everything activates at the same time. And then I say, well, look, look through your legs, do the same exact thing, and we'll time those snaps and see what the difference is. Paul was a guy. He was a no-look snapper, changed to a look snapper. The speed did not change at all. He even got faster when he started looking. And so to me, it's like you said, it's got to be a simultaneous motion, tuck the chin, arms, that whip, shoulders, arms, all that should bring everything into motion together. And that head, it needs to come through. I'm trying to think of the best coaching terms for that. Everything needs to go through your legs. And so some guys try to keep that head up, and not bring it through, but it's all got to be one motion through, or else it's going to be like throwing a change up. So some guys I've seen, their arms come through great, right? They come, elbows are almost past their knees. Great flexibility, but their heads, stay straight. And so it's like you're throwing a change up, man. You're rearing back and you're throwing everything you got, but because your head's fighting the other way, it's throwing like a change up back there. And so, it's all gonna be one fluid motion.
Yeah, I love that actually, and that drill or whatever how you worked it out with Paul too, because that's something that I didn't really know about. It's kind of an extension of what you were just talking about. No wasted motion, right? That's a wasted motion, picking your head up.
For sure, and it's a way for defenses to key it, and so that's kind of why we don't like to do that. It's really hard for some guys to get away from too, and it's just part of it. Either you get really good at making that time between lifting your head and the snap different every time you snap, or you got to start looking. It's just one of those things. And a lot of guys get way more accurate when they start to do that, the look snap.
I like that. All right, so now take me through the elbows and the next part of it, right? You're getting through your legs, your follow through. I've heard a shotgun barrel. Your eyes want to be looking down a shotgun barrel with arms. Is that something you kind of coach on? And tell me.
Yeah, 100%. So it's just like on field goal and punt, man. You got to see through your hands is what you like to tell them. If there's a camera on the back, I should see eyes and hands almost at the same level, everything working backwards. But you're exactly right, like a shotgun. Everything's got to explode out. When you release the ball, wrists don't have to be together by any means, but they should be even. And so Paul, a lot of times he'll get off a little bit, and you'll see that ball tail, or there'll be a little tick in the snap, which means it's wobbling a little bit. But you want to finish, if you pause that from the side angle every time, his arms are coming out of his legs at the same exact point. So he's not coming higher. Sometimes he's not coming lower. It's at the same exact point every single time. And a lot of that comes from, like we said earlier, not wasting movement, not having to start with the ball way out here and come through. And, a drill we like to do for finishing through with your hands is stand back there with your arm behind them and just say, slap my hand. And so when they do that, I got to see the head and arms go back. So my bad, I'm stepping back here. If a guy's having some issues with accuracy or with, coming off with hands, above each other, a lot of times I'll just say over-exaggerate the snap here. So snap and hold it. So when they snap, hold that position with your arms straight, between your legs and head looking through your hands. And so we'll do that a couple times until they're like, oh, I get it. And so by over-exaggerating it, they're starting to get that feeling a little more. And they'll pick up the speed, but, that release is so important and getting all the way through.
Yeah, I love that, actually. That's really good because, that's something that a lot of, especially younger guys, when I was working with, my high school guys, it's like they just want to snap. One of my biggest pet peeves is when guys snap and then their hands come out. I'm like, what are you doing with your hands? Hold that ball through. You wouldn't, throw a pitch or throw a football and then snap your arm back.
It's all about, like you said, holding the follow through.
That's what they teach quarterbacks too.
Yeah, and then so we talked about efficiency, so limiting movement with the snap, and then you got twitch, which can be helped a little bit in the weight room, but that's all about pre-snap positioning, and then the biggest thing I do when a guy gets to campus is pre-snap routine. So like a batter entering the batter's box, right? Before, day one, we'll get on a yard line without a ball and, I make them address the ball. So we'll have one out, where a ball would be, but it's all about the feet. So where they're at, your mannerism before the snap. So whether it's lick, wipe, it's got to be something that you can go to every single time. So a routine is the very first thing. I'm sorry, I'm bouncing around. I just kind of, thoughts are coming back in my head.
You're good.
The guy at this level who already knows how to snap a ball, make him even better. So take what they do and make it even better. So routine is a way to make it better. So by that, having the same exact ritual when you get up to the ball, making sure the feet are the exact same every single time. It's like a triangle, right? So toe, and ball, it needs to be the exact same, distance every single time. And so that just takes repetition. Day one through day 5, it's just a ton of those drills before they even start to warm up. And then, after, like I said, they usually know how to snap pretty good, right? So that's not something you have to worry about. It's managing them, making sure they're consistent every time, like I said, with the follow through, checking it all the time, making sure they're not short arming it or whatever. But learning kind of if a snap is to the right, what the problem probably is. It's just like kicking, right? So you may not have seen exactly what happened, but if you see a ball go right, you probably know what they did wrong. And so that's kind of how I manage snapping. And then later on tape, we'll watch it all and figure it out. But then, the next step is to make them really good in coverage. And that is all things I can control. Ways to get off of a blocker, ways to stack them, different things with how to tackle a returner, how to approach them on a fair catch, different things. So I'm going to teach them all the coverage techniques and all that kind of stuff and make them really good. And then tackling is something that we're going to get very, very good at. And Paulie B is one of the best at just throwing his face in there. And so that's something that we can, how to make them good snappers to great snappers, in my opinion, is the coverage aspect. So forcing fair catches, getting down there and, muff, how to get on a muff ball, how to get off of a block, things like that.
Man, I love that. And that's one of the things I really, respect about you, and I think you do a great job of is the different situations you put your specialist in. I'm just from what, you showed me about that. To me, as a specialist coach and someone who, really studies these guys, that is so important, is putting them in adverse situations or game-like situations and seeing how they respond.
Yeah, no doubt.
With
make the game easy for them.
Absolutely. Go real quick. I'm going to go back real quick because I love what you said about your, pre-snap routine and dressing the ball.
Yeah.
I love that because with my kickers and punters, I do the same thing. I, have something that when you do it, it puts your mind in the right state. We're like, all right, it's go time now. I'm blocking out all distractions. Do you give them any mental or verbal cues? For example, I'll tell myself when I was punting, lock the ankle out, or release and go straight down. Or I even had a breathing routine when I took my field goal steps. I'd make sure I'd breathe in for 4, pause for 2, breathe out for 4 as I'm lining up my kick, and then take my 2 steps and do it again. Is there something that you tell your guys for long snappers, mental and verbal?
Oh, definitely. One of the biggest things that can screw up a snapper, man, it being one was if you're over the ball too long, you can go back and look at it historically. You're going to snap the ball high. It's just part of it. Like being over the ball, stressing your body out, whether it's they're making checks at the line or coach screwed up and sent us out there too early or whatever. They're stemming, but being over the ball. And so a thing I like to tell them is we got to figure out the cadence of the punt. We'll talk about punt first, right? So you need to know, the routine of that personal protector or that shield guy or your punter. When y'all run out there, and you do your feet and you get perfectly aligned, when to begin your routine and when to address the ball. Because you can be the best snapper in the world, but if you're rushed or if you're told to stay on the ball way too long, there's not a lot you can do. And so the biggest thing I like to tell those guys is whatever routine you can get, if it's running out on the field, standing over the ball and looking back. If you got to do that, or if you got to look between your legs, it's something that I tell Paul to do is have your arms resting on your thigh board, right? Just kind of bend over the ball until he hears that shield guy start the cadence. Then he can address the ball because he was having a hard time. He was addressing it way too early, and he was hanging over the ball way too long. And so I think the biggest thing you can do is rep it with you guys along, get the kickers to be shield guys, but kind of get that routine of running on the field, or, doing your punt script, whatever, but running on the field, standing over the ball, and when do you start addressing the ball or your routine, your wipe, hands on the ball, right hand or left hand, but make that the same every time, start at the same time every time. And so, with Paul, I think it was, he would stand over the ball, he would rest his arms and look between his legs. And when he finally saw like the shield guy put his hands on his knees or whatever it was, that's when he would start his deal. And so I think that helped him out a lot. I think that's a major thing you can do with those guys is work that cadence or whatever it is into their practice time. So they're not just snapping balls. And then another thing, I'm sorry I didn't mention this. I don't like guys just standing. It's field goal, snapping the ball, turning around, grabbing it, put it on the ground, snapping the ball. I want them to readdress the ball every single snap. So they got to get their feet ready. They can't don't just keep your feet in the same spot, catch a ball and snap again. No, back up, go through your routine and whatever. And so going back to that cadence thing with Paul, on field goals, he would actually turn and look back at the kicker and the holder. All right. And as soon as the kicker started to take his steps sideways, that's when Paul would wipe his right hand on the towel. That's when Paul would get on the ball. And so that was his thing. It never changed. And so that helped him out a lot with his rhythm. For sure.
That's some great stuff. But here's the thing. This is what makes me so happy is this is what makes specialists, so analytical or, people don't know. A lot of coaches, even if they've been around, they don't really pay attention to these little things that I think are so important to setting your long snappers apart and making them the best that they can be is these little things like that. I love it. Tell me, how do you rep or what happens if Paul gets in a bad situation where he's already gotten set and now the shield is making checks or they're stemming, they're doing something. Do you tell him anything if he's caught in that bad situation?
Yeah, so we actually work that a lot, probably overwork it. I'm a big situational guy. Maybe it's to eat up practice time or whatever, but I just freaking love working in, hey, it's a review, the review and the touchdown. We got to chill. I love working all that kind of stuff. And so like you said, like, I mean, we're out there in freaking summer, like June, they're going through a script, and I'll work that in there. Like, hey, Paul, get over the ball, and it's a check, right? So checking the guy in for protection or on punt or whatever. And so we had to go through that. What do you feel comfortable doing? Is it taking one hand off the ball like you see some actual centers do? You know, where they like put a knee down, turn around or whatever. And Paul's big thing was to take his left hand off and like put it on his thigh board and just kind of sit there. And so that's how he handled it. Ray, our other snapper, he was same thing. He would take one hand off the ball, but he liked to like turn a little bit and look back. And so it's working those situations so they're not taken by surprise. One major thing, though, you can tell your guys, don't put your hands on the ball too quickly, because say they make a check or whatever, now you can just stand up and turn. Like, you don't have to have one hand, because once you put a hand on the ball, you got to keep it. But, it's putting them in those situations before it actually happens. But no, we worked them in the team situations, all that stuff, and never took them by surprise. And it came up plenty of times in games. Paul, a couple times. Only one time did it happen bad, just because I had done a poor job of introducing it to him in 2018. But 2019, we were ready to roll. We had like a 40-second delay. Like, we're out on the field ready to punt the ball, and we were communicated that the clock was going to start on the snap, but it was actually going to start when we ran out there. And so Paul, we had to abort and say, yo, chill out, whatever it is that Shield told him. But because we had gone through that, he was comfortable. He sat there, was able to look at the clock, was able to look back, and so he was good to go for that.
Man.
But, yeah.
Real quick, too, another thing that I thought of, and something I told my guys, are you ever worried about long snappers or short snappers having their head down for too long? I know, like, sometimes sweat can get in your eyes, right? Your head is rushing, your blood is rushing to your head.
Yeah.
What do you tell your guys about that?
That's a major. Like I told you before, I don't know why it's that way, but usually you throw it high if you're down over the ball too long. And that's all about knowing your shield guy, knowing your holder on field goal. It's all about knowing those guys, knowing what could happen. Already bringing that, hey, check, they brought two guys in the A-gap type stuff up to him. So now he knows, what is my ritual whenever we're making a check? Do I put one hand off and look back, or do I, stay over the ball? And so, it comes down to that. Don't put yourself in the situation where you're over the ball too long. Whether it's keeping one hand on the ball or just not having any hands on the ball and resting on your thigh board.
Yeah, I love that, man. That's what sets you apart, I think.
Yeah.
Tell me, was there more you want to add to, like, the different phases and stuff, or how you guys?
Yeah, I forgot, man. You said the three most important.
Yeah, I want to know about what you think is, like, the most important, things that you have to, the phases for a quality long snapper.
Yeah, I would say one is the pre-snap, which breaks into two things. It's like we said earlier, routine. Freaking be the same exact guy every time, like stepping into a batter's box. And then the balance. So flat back, being completely balanced, not back on your heels, not falling forward when you snap, being completely balanced all the way through, straight line back, and then being able to get freaking out and get covering. And so that, and then, being able to get out and get covering all comes from balance, like I said. So the pre-snap position, I guess you could call it that. Second phase would have to be twitch or release. So doing whatever it takes to get faster at that motion, whether it's bringing it closer to your body, so that's less distance, you got to whip that thing back, or just getting in the weight room and getting twitchier, and having an even release every time. And the third phase would have to be the flexibility and the reach back. So head and hands going all the way through your legs, being very flexible, and overemphasize that. Like I said, sometimes we'll tell them, hey, snap it and hold it, and let's see how far back you are. Let's see, where your hands are positioned. And so that's the three phases, I think.
Hey, I love that. Your second phase and what you talked about with your 2018 long snapper, I think you're talking about doing some, work with bands, reaction work with bands, what is something that you like to have them do that reaction work with bands? Is it more like bands on your hips, or is it like your wrist and upper body? How do you guys?
Oh no, it's and I leave this to the strength coaches,
Yeah.
man. You know, a lot of stuff. The 2018, we were a really big sports science training team, you know, and it was a lot of reaction, a lot of, like I said, efficient movements. Like even with receivers, they wanted it to be efficient, less wasted movement. So snappers, they were doing a ton of band work where either it was, you know, just getting more flexible. I don't even know what they did with them. You know, I let them handle that. But I mean, I've seen med ball work for sure, where it's working on that initial movement of getting stronger, working whatever muscles those are to get twitch, just repetitive. One old school thing that they used to do is we used to put our hands in rice buckets and you turn them in there, and that kind of built the wrist strength and the forearm strength. I know that much, but
I like that.
I probably need to look more into special teams. You does a great job showing workouts. I've sent a bunch of them to my guys to work on just because they know more than I do. He's got a guy there apparently that's I'm probably going to say it wrong, but for a living, I mean, he does, you know, training, and so he'll show Luke Rhodes doing a workout. I'm like, that's genius. You know, I didn't know to do that. So I'll let those guys handle that, and I'll just handle, you know, managing reps and things like that. But I don't tell them to go do anything specific in the weight room. I let them take care of that.
Yeah.
The strength staff. But
No, that's some good stuff. I like that. And now you kind of hit on this a little bit earlier, but you know, what are some, when you're looking, all right, I'm looking, say for me, I'm looking to recruit some high school long snappers. What are some qualities that you're looking for? Obviously, you've talked about body size.
Yeah.
The big thing. I don't know, technique wise or coverage wise, what do you look for?
Yeah, I'm looking at size. I'm looking at the flight of the ball. So I don't do times. I think times are kind of skewed nowadays. I don't believe a lot of what's out there until I see it in person. And so, but a lot of that on film, you can just tell from the flight of the ball. So, I mean, it's pretty simple. If there's an arc to the ball, it's probably in the 8s. If it's a little arc, it's probably in the 7s. If there's little to no arc, I mean, he's 6s. He's doing a great job. One thing you really got to keep in mind, though, I'd say 60% of high schools don't snap the ball at 14 yards or even 15. You know, they're at 12. So you're like, dang, this guy's firing it, but they're not. I mean, they're at 12 yards. And so the flight of the ball is what I like to look at. Can't really see how tight the spiral is on film. So a lot of that we like to see in person. And then, man, I'm really big on how athletic he looks getting down the field. I don't know why. I mean, I think it's the guy I work for now, Coach Brock. He's really into the coverage aspect of the snapper, and I am too. Like, he needs to be able to do other things. I know it's the snap's got to get back there, but if that guy can force some fair catches for you, man, that's huge. And so that makes your punt team way better. So yeah, I'd say size for sure. Build, you know, I don't really, you know, you can tell what kind of guy can put on weight. And you can see it on film as this guy can be able to last against our opponents. And so a lot of times I can tell from the first couple clips, if he can't get off of a guy holding him up, you know, in high school, there's no way he can even get down the field in our league. And so I'm gonna look at size, I'm gonna look at the flight of the ball, and then coverage ability, and then field goal, man. I like to, if they can get laces in high school, that's a pretty major deal, which now more and more kids are getting it. But really just the spot and field goal. Can he put it consistently in the same spot? But, man, a lot of it I like to look at on their, like, drill tape. So huddle tape is cool, but a lot of that stuff they put on Twitter of just them snapping, you know, I really like to see that because I can see it in person. Not in person, but close up, kind of their fundamentals, their technique, and all that kind of good stuff.
Do you ask for, like, certain angle? I know some special teams coaches, you know, for example, if I'm watching a kicker, right, I might ask for him, hey, take a view of, you know, like a wide shot and it's right near the ball so I can see if your ankle is locked out on contact and through contact. Is there a different, you know, say, all right, give me, you know, 5 directly behind you so I can see your hands. Give me
Yeah.
5 from the side. What do you ask your?
Yeah, so I didn't mention this earlier. It's kind of one of those things. If they're doing it, it's kind of tough to make them any better. But I like a back view, 1 to see hands, 2 to see if the feet come straight back when he snaps, or are they coming ankles or going inwards. A lot of guys, it has to do with flexibility. Not a lot. Some of them, their ankles are going to, or their heels are going to come inwards at almost like a 45-degree angle. And that looks like their body's fighting against themselves. So it's hard for, them to, 1, get out of a stance, 2, get the ball back there. So I can see from film from behind, 1, are their hands good? Are they coming out at the same height every time? The hands, are they way up by their butt? Are they down by the knee crease, or are they low? And 2, I want to see those feet. Are they coming straight back, or are they coming inwards? And so back view, but really I don't like to ask them for certain camera footage. I just say, give me some tape, man. And then coverage. A lot of times guys will cut the coverage out of the film. So I just say, send me your tape, buddy. Or I'll watch a game on Huddle. A lot of times just uncut.
Yeah, if they're cutting the coverage out of it, that might.
Yeah, it should tell you a lot. Yeah, definitely. One thing I do like, man, I wish there was more of it. I want to say Rubio and Coles both do some kind of coverage drill after the snap. That's pretty cool. I think it's a good idea, where they're tackling a donut or a tackling dummy. Now, the one where you snap and go out for a pass, I think that's wasting a little time. But definitely, both those guys do drills with coverage. I think is really useful for me as a college coach. See how he can move.
Right.
If it's just them doing bags, still I can see if that guy athletic or not.
I was gonna say, the coverage one, are they working on snapping and then getting down the field and then have to come bounce and change direction to make?
Yeah, there's a couple good drills they've done. Where they're doing bag drills and then they'll run around a hoop, or they'll stop, hit the ground, roll, then make the tackle, bend around a couple cones. There's some good stuff. But, my favorite thing is to just have a camp and get kids there in the summer and then put them through the ringer, man. I got a lot of good drills I do with coverage to see who can do it and who can't.
Yeah, that's what makes this offseason so tough, right? I was really looking forward to the camps too and all the specialist stuff, and it's like, damn.
Yeah, that's a bummer. But, it's the same drill I do with my guys, and that's why I like it. And I think they like that too. The recruits is, they're doing this in Mississippi State. Like, I'm doing it, so it's cool to teach.
Oh, I love that.
That's the thing about my camp. Well, I don't have camps. When I run a camp, whether it's a prospect camp, a specialist camp, whatever, I like to teach and not just evaluate, because there's so many little things I didn't know until college that I wish I would have known in high school. And so I love teaching during it. I wish we could have camps this summer. It's a bummer we didn't.
Yeah, even if it's just foundation stuff, right?
That's no doubt.
And they can
helping a guy out,
Yeah, I love that.
I'm all for helping snappers, around the globe. I talk to some guys and they're not for us, but I'm like, look, if you ever have questions about recruiting, or, this coach is saying this, what does that mean? I say it's like just a situation with specialists they have. I don't know, just anything, any questions they have, I'm going to help a snapper out until they're done snapping. And so there's a kid named William Moat that I love to death, man. He's from Alabama. He plays at Georgia, incredible snapper. Wish he could have played for me. But I'm going to be there for that kid till he's done. Hopefully I'll be, at his marriage, but was able to help him through some recruiting stuff, tell him what certain things mean, how does out of state look for a kid. And even though he wasn't coming to me, I was able to help that guy. And if he ever has issues with snapping during the season, I'll gladly help him with whatever. Having trouble with rain, coach, wet ball drills, what can I do? But I don't know. I just, for the greater good, same with you and kickers and punters, you just want everybody to be good. Teach them things you've seen and make them better.
That's why we got the podcast, baby.
That's right.
Get that
in book, yeah.
And the book, yeah. But man, we'll definitely put your stuff out there. You can keep helping specialists, man, helping me. I appreciate you taking the time out anyway. Talk to me. All right, so you've groomed these guys, man. They've come under your the Coach Tuck wing, and they come out looking like the shiny, fantastic long snapper. How can you tell, because you've been around some great long snappers and you've seen some great long snappers, how can you tell all right, this guy, he's got potential. He's can play at the next level. What sets them apart?
Oh man, I would say mentality, like Paul's mentality, like Hunter Bradley's mentality, who's playing for the Packers now. You can tell, man, they're war daddies, man. They want to freaking work. You hear people in the weight room talk about them. They're working out with linebackers. They're not working out with the specialists. They're getting brought up in staff meetings. Hey, this guy's, he's done great every lift we've had. And then you can kind of see in the meetings, they're there to literally learn, to write down, to look at their stats that I put up, and they're mad whenever it's not where they want it to be. That's what I like. And it's not just a guy trying to get by. But we're talking about next level, like NFL, it really, to me, it comes down to their frame. So after a year, what do they look like, body wise? Because pretty much every NFL snappers don't look the same, but they're very similar, as far as build. And so a lot of times you can tell within the first year is that guy can have that build or not. And then really accuracy. I mean, if NFL is all about accuracy over speed, I think. And from what I've heard talking to Hunter and Winston Chapman, it's a lot about, can you be consistent every single time, punt and field goal. And usually accuracy and coverage ability, but I would say that's it. There's no real snap time that you can say this guy's going to be at the next level because he snaps this. It's really all about, everything from, hey, we got to roll out punt, so you got to put it a yard outside the punter. He puts it exactly where it's supposed to be, or hey, if the gunner's the first one down, he's going to force him to the sideline, so you got to be in his position that he was originally. Can they do that and understand coverage? Like, I'm not just snapping a ball and running. I understand why we do this scheme, why this gunner's over here, and where I fit. Sky punt situation. I'm a backstop. I'm not just running down and getting on the returner. I'm there for the ball if it bounces backwards. Guys that actually think situationally, think about the scheme, field goal wise, can take control of the group. Say, hey, it's freaking tackle over. Like, they're not just snapping. Like, they're also very aware we're on the left hash, it's going to be tackle over. Like, and they're out there saying that stuff. So guys that, I guess, take initiative to do more than just snap and run, those guys are going to play for a long time.
Man, yeah, I mean, you're giving so many good points, too, for younger guys to learn,
Yeah.
okay, this is what I have to do to play at that next level. I have these aspirations. I have to be cognizant, all of this.
Yeah.
You know what? To me, one of the greatest things that you said was it goes back to being that good student, right? I mean,
yeah.
Believe me, I was never the biggest and most athletic or the best, punter on the team. But what I did take pride in was, taking notes, man. Every time I was in there, I had a huge notebook, and that's what turned into my book. But, being a student of the game is really something that will set you apart.
100%. Knowing the returner, like Hunter was a guy that he knew the whole game plan that week. He knew what kind of guy that returner was, and knew the rush looks. Man, this guy knew everything. Like, he knew what to expect from every single team. And the guys, he was a captain for the Packers one game or a couple games this past year. Like, this guy is going to play football as long as he wants to because he does the things people aren't willing to do. Even in college, that guy was out there. I mean, he knew more than the special teams coordinator of what that guy was going to do. And, I mean, it just shows up. Like, don't just – like, do more than what you're expected. Like, go out there, hey, this returner really likes to take it to the field. Just know that. Like, obviously you got to do your role in coverage, but having that in mind and knowing that he likes to – hey, his favorite thing is a stop and cut or a spin move, or he always makes the first guy miss. Little things like that. Like in the SEC, that's a really big thing. Like, hey, I know we're good, and I have faith in our gunner, but expect the first guy to miss. So you got to be there to clean it up because this Joker is a freaking world-class athlete. And so, Hunter was great at those things, and so was Chapman. Chapman got a chance to play too. And always aware, nothing took them by surprise. They wanted to get that situational work and wanted to be made uncomfortable during the week so they could be better in the game.
Man, that's awesome. Those are some good, very valid points too. When you have your guys, even in camp or even throughout the season, how do you create that? Because you have a ton of long snappers and you have 35 specialists on your team.
Yeah, yeah.
How do you create that competition aspect between them?
Oh man, well, everything's charted for sure. We'll go back to Chris Boniel. The charting system he gave me is just super detailed, man. Like I don't even know. You may have seen it when I was handing it out that meeting, but everybody gets it every day. But we'll talk about snappers. They're going to know. We'll say punt. There's basically a strike zone, numbered 1 through 8, starting from the neck down to the knees. And it's just kind of like you see in the Nintendo or the PlayStation when you play MLB The Show, kind of the hot points of a batter's, the batter's box. He's got his that's where I got it from. And so you can kind of see where he's hitting, his snap speed. And so that creates competition. So, Paul's at a 6.8 average, Raymond's at a 7.1. Like, Paul can talk crap. He can say, dude, get your snaps up. Like, I'm hitting whatever his percentage worked out to be. Like, I'm 85% on location. I'm on my accuracy. And so they're able to see every single day, this guy's got the best numbers. Same with kicking, same with punting. There's everything is out there. Like, everything is accounted for and it's right there in front of you. So competition, So competition, we'll go with the charts. That's a definite big one. But I like to do things from the start of the meeting, man, where I'm doing a paper football competition before they go out. Somebody told me one day, I don't know exactly who it was, but when they're in the meeting room, you need to start those competitive juices flowing, whether it's a song battle, like name this tune or whatever, just something to get them going. And that's just one example. Like, we would do a paper football, they're kickers, so I thought that was a good idea, but just something to get those juices flowing before they get out on the field, whether it's heads up the game or I'm not going to give away all of our tactics, but we like to do something competitive before we get out there. And so starting there, and then when you get on the field, there's always things you can do, big ball, accuracy, snappers can do laces. That's something, since I even got here, Winston Chapman would end every single day with a laces competition for field goal snaps. Who can get the most in a row? And, punters, it's big ball. It's kickers, it's horse, whatever they want to play. But, yeah, everything's got to be competitive in some way.
Man, I love that. And that's listening to all those things, I want to be a part of your specialist room, man. I want to be – that makes me, want to be able to compete and even something as silly, as a song competition or something like that. That's good.
Yeah.
That's cool. And I'd love to see those charts too. I do remember the long snapping one. Yeah, it looked like pretty intense. Do the long snappers themselves chart?
No, I'm going to chart everything on the field and then on tape. Luckily, we have a couple ground cameras, which I know a lot of people who, if you don't have, access to a ground camera, you can do your best to get it on tape after practice or, during punt. Let's say it's team punt. I have my kickers. They're doing the charting, whether it's location or hang time. Or we don't ever do distance. You can't get that on the field. But everything from handle time, op time, hang time. And then usually you have more than one kicker. So other kicker, he can get, accuracy for the snap time. But a lot of those things you can get after the fact. But if you can somehow invest in either you getting, a really good phone case with a battery in it, or buy yourself a ground cam, like the ground camera works wonders, man. You can do so much stuff with it. And even during team period, it's another angle they get to see, and it's great. And allows you really to chart everything for sure.
That's so important, man. I think, and especially you guys are blessed with those resources. That is pretty cool.
Definitely. Yeah. Now you got to use them though. Like, if you're giving them, you better put them to work.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Well, that's some great stuff on long snapping. And now I know we spent a lot of time on that, but that's kind of a natural lead into punt and what you guys like to do with punt. I'm a big 2-man shield guy. That's how I've always at UT Martin, we use something like that where we go 3-man, but 2-man. I liked, the coverage aspect that allows you to have more athletes on the field tell me a little bit about what you like as far as punt formations personally and what you like to get into.
Yeah, personally, I came up in a two-man shield system that was straight line. So by straight line, I mean I'm snapping directly straight behind two shields that are split. So that's really kind of all I knew. And at the time, it was majority three-man shield with big old linemen back there, but we were a two-man shield with more athletic DN, tight end bodies. And I was just intrigued by it. We had at least three gunners out there every single time due to the fact it was a two-man shield. And even if we didn't have the best punter in the league, we were always up there with net punt because we could either force fair catches or get guys down there quick. And so I'm a big advocate for it. I work on a staff that's advocates for the air raid. They do like air raid certified and classes and stuff. Like I'd love to one day get people on this two-man shield train. I know a lot more people are doing it, but I think everybody should do it. I love it. It gives you so many advantages as long as you can coach the heck out of it and have the right guys for it. But I'm a big two-man shield advocate for sure, just based on, the coverage ability it gives you, the mismatches that it can give you in coverage, and, it discourages people from rushing, I think. So putting that extra gunner out there, at least, you get one extra one than usual. And then if you start doing things where you flex your tackle, where you put the, we call them an adjuster out there wide, then you force guys to have mismatches. So, most people, we'll get into a little bit of scheme here, right? Punt return, a lot of people label it as L1, L2, L3, L4. All right. Hey, my L4, you're usually on the guard. L3, you're usually on the tackle. L2, you're on, you're an edge guy, right? Or forcer or whatever. But say, we come out with a formation, two-man shield. Now your L3 is flexed out, and what you think's a tackle, but is actually a gunner. And so, boom, that guy's already way more athletic than that kid because usually a linebacker or a bigger safety. But I finally I didn't understand why two-man shield was so good until I was a coach, and now I'm seeing like, dang, you can do one little tweak in your formation, and it's going to force them to put their L4, who's, a big body linebacker, out on a really fast corner or something. So there's just so many I could get into. We could talk for days, but it keeps people, you make sure they're sound. It lets you know if they're sound. It keeps them honest as far as bringing two forcers, I believe. There's so many things about it that are good, but
yeah,
I just love the mismatches it creates. Yeah.
No, you're hitting on it right on.
Yeah.
I was going to talk about this later, but we both, when I was down there in Starkville, we're both talking about our love for different formations. Personally, me, when I was in the OVC, Murray State under Jake Johnson, who's now the EKU DC, he loved to get in all these different crazy formations. They'd have three gunners out here.
Oh yeah.
Or they, have, unbalanced formations where you got like a guard on this side and then like five guys over here, or a shield where it was like a line, and I'm looking at, we're playing Murray this week, and Coach Bowman, who's now a past game DC at Austin P, I'm talking to him about it. I'm like, man, they got a formation where there's two punters back there. They got a tight end.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
I'm like, how are we going to play this week? He goes, man, we're just going to make sure all the eligibles are lined up.
Yeah, we're just going to cover them up.
Yeah. I mean, so what it does is it takes the teeth out of these punt block teams, especially teams that are known to, come after punts. We were talking about Arkansas State, remember, who did a ton of stuff with their different formations.
Yeah.
Have you looked at it as far as a protection aspect? Does that change any rules in protection for them?
No, that's the beauty of it. Like you said, man, it makes coordinators just say, all right, look, we're just going to cover them up. We're going to make sure we don't get hit with a fake, because you put one guy off, and then now the whole thing changes. You know what I'm saying? You take a guard off the ball, and now it's all changed. And then, they're telling one guy, hey, you cover the adjuster this week. Well, now he don't even know who the adjuster is, because you tell him he's the guy off the ball. Well, shoot, now they got, a guard off the ball, and then now this guy's out wide. And so, like you said, yeah, it forces them just to be sound and not be aggressive. What What was the question again?
Well, you're leading me into the next one too. Is when you guys, there's a lot of good clinic talk for when people are talking their man side protection and their zone.
Yeah, protection. I got you. Yeah.
What do you like to? I know that's kind of cliche and stuff, but it really does stick in the players' heads. What do you like to say for your man side and zone side protection?
Yeah. So the biggest thing we did at State in 2018-19 was simplify protection to a huge extent. And the best thing about it, and I won't get into the exact specifics of it because I would like to keep doing a similar scheme maybe later on, but what it did was it made our players not think as much, and they were able to just play fast and make decisions. And no matter what formation we got in, we were able to keep our protection the exact same. All right. And then, week 8, we have gotten in 14 formations or so at this point. Every single one of them had the same check. So if they gave us this, then boom, we're just checking back to this. And it was just the same exact thing we had done day 2 of punt in camp, this check. So it was very, very simple. And I will give away one thing though that turned into man side, zone side protection, right? Most people do, especially with 2-man shield. We were able to kind of make them both the very exact same thing as far as steps and hand placement, all that stuff, just because of how we protected. But what it did was it took away that thing that most people on punt returns say, hey, run over his heels. Like if they're coming for the block, hey, run where he was, right? Replace his steps. So if a guy's trying to zone block and he like really dips down hard, turns his shoulder, tries to come across you in the A gap, a lot of guys punt return when they scheme you up is, hey, he's going to really cry across your face hard. Just replace his steps and run right over his heels. And so what we did was we changed how we zone block. It wasn't a zone off protection. It was mainly almost like a man protection. So you can't let anybody get in this gap. All right. So if that means just shuffling in and cutting them off, that was the whole main point of it. Just cut off this gap. So we got away from turning our shoulders and just running to, hey, keep your freaking chest, like keep your shoulders square and make sure nobody gets into that gap. And so it was very, very similar to man blocking is what it turned into. So now we're both doing the same thing on each side. And so it kept people from saying this is their zone side, this is their man side, and made it really, really simple for our players.
Yeah, that is huge. Is that and that's what teams, if I'm looking at film, I'm looking at which side's the zone side. That way we can see, just like you said, stepping over, replacing his feet, or some coaches will say step right on his crotch, because he can be going down. And that,
well, coach, what happens when he doesn't run down and he just shocks me in the chest, which is what we were doing. So we were able to get away from a lot of that.
Yeah.
Rushing from the zone side.
Yeah, I love that. And then that's cool too, because I think it's very interesting. Different teams have different perspectives on their adjuster wing. Where they're going to place him and stuff. Like, for example, you guys last year, you'd have a lot of your adjuster wing on the backside. Why did you guys like going, what changed either way, putting him on the backside or the front side?
Yeah, so keeping him on the backside, what it did was widen that edge. That's the main reason for it. Simple as that. So keep that guy that's rushing from the backside edge as far away from the punter as possible. We were an offset punt team, and so the only real threat we had was a guy coming from the backside. And being offset, we were already 2 yards farther than him than a normal punt team, and so it just kind of made it safe, and it allowed that adjuster wing to get out in coverage sooner. Because he was a yard off the ball, all he had to do was give that guy a punch, run through his shoulder, whatever we wanted him to do that week, and get out in coverage.
Would teams like overload the front side then and try to, guess which side the front side was because you guys had less numbers there?
Yeah, so we gave it away pretty quickly what side our front side was because the shields would align to it. But man, still, even doing that, we didn't see much pressure at all. People would rush, but by pressure, I mean we didn't get, get near the punt getting blocked many times, maybe 2 or 3 in 2 years. And so Yeah, it would give it away. And so a lot of times people, rather than bringing their force guys from either side of the formation, you know, most guys force with 2 guys coming from each side. People would begin to put 2 guys on that side of the shield. So now they're getting 2 guys to the shield, and that was their answer. Because it was pointless to bring 2 guys like this from, and teams would still do it. And that guy's he's 15 yards away from everything. And so smart teams were beginning to put both of those forcers on one side and bring them both. But man, it's a solid protection scheme. Anyway, you try to come after it. And so we saw just about everything in 2 years, I would say.
Yeah, and I think another good thing you guys did was you moved the block point. And just talking about that
for sure.
offset, that teams have to respect where the ball's at. But also if you can hit some roll or some rugby, that was my big thing. At UTM, I was under Jordan Hankins, who's with it at Marshall, and that's one thing he does such a good job of is moving the block point. Teams see that on film, but they still have to figure out where that ball or the punch, where that's going to be at.
Definitely. Yeah.
That's huge. What changes for the long snapper when you move, the punts?
Yeah, I was worried about that for sure coming into it. The only thing they got to do is adjust their feet. It's still just a straight snap. Now, the one thing that helped out Paul and Joel was looking between their legs more than they usually did pre-snap, which every snapper needs to do. First of all, find a target before you snap. But definitely, like the alignment was key because it's an offset snap, but wasn't really an offset snap. They were just snapping the ball straight back, but they were moving their feet, if that makes sense. And we never saw issues with referees in our league, so I mean it was fine.
Why are refs supposed to get on that or
Yeah, having one foot back farther than the other apparently was some issue. Well, they thought it was gonna be an issue, but we never got any.
Yeah, I've never heard anyone say anything.
And then you think about having helmet on the belt line with the guards and tackles. That never was an issue either, and so ended up working out.
Does it change the distance? If you guys move, normally you'd be whatever. Say you're at 15. Straight back snap. Would you guys move the punter up a little bit because it's now a little bit farther because it's at an angle? Do you know?
It depended on depended on the call. Just because punters, historically going left is difficult for them. Yeah. And, when we were going left, people can see on film our punter was a little wider. It's just because it made it an easier angle for him to walk. And so, the distance was the same. I was pretty skeptical about it, so I got a tape measure out there. And, because I was like, Coach, these guys are snapping at 15.3 yards. I promise you. That's why it's a 0.74, whatever. I promise you we're not snapping it slow. And it was maybe, like I said, a half a yard longer than normal, but, worked out for us. Would you rather have it blocked or have it snap a little longer than usual? So.
No doubt. I know there's been a big there's always a big discussion, for field goal for long snappers of having the laces up. Is that partly their job too on a punt snap, or what do you tell your guys as far?
That'd be great. That'd be really good, but a lot of that you can help with jug work with the punters. Man, dude, don't punt the laces, obviously, and so get them really good with their hands. Our guy had that great operation time. We averaged it was 1.97-ish, which is freaking fast. And so a lot of times he would just catch and kick, and a couple times hit the laces, not in games but in practice. And so no, I never put that on Paul to get him a good laces on punt. Field goal, absolutely. But I think jug work helped out Tuck with handling the ball and just not punting laces, man. Just work on, giving yourself a good surface to hit.
Yeah, that's on the punter really to make sure he's getting a good inside panel to make connection with. I'm gone over for, and this is something I've thought about, a lot in my head. I haven't really talked about with anyone, but it's a bad ball drill. Just like field goal, when sometimes you're going to get in a spot where you have to hit laces at you. And for a kicker, it was cool. David Akers talked about this on the fourth down experience. Is like that doesn't change anything as far as the flight of the ball. The only thing it does is it allows the ball is not going to compress as much as it would with the laces facing away. So as long as I'm not at 55 or 60 yards,
Exactly,
I should still make that kick, right? Because I should still have the leg strength. As far as a punter, and I used to do this drill like with my brother, I was wondering, like, I don't know if, as long as the laces, I'm not making contact with the actual laces themselves, can I still hit that? I don't know. That's something that I think I'm going to have to do some, work with my guys and see. But, normally they should be good enough with their hands where they can get that ball to the spot.
Oh, yeah.
Without hitting the laces.
Now, I will go back and say I was able to work with Mike McCabe one weekend. Man, it was great. I learned so much in just a matter of 2 days. But in the NFL, they actually do get their snappers to get those laces either a half a turn or a quarter turn, strictly by where they put the punter. So he was telling Corliss, he's going to go play for the Steelers. He didn't get to play for us last season due to some eligibility stuff. He had actually exhausted his last year at South Alabama, and he grad transferred here. And we weren't able to get him to play, but he hung around, helped me out a ton, punted balls for it. Yeah, he's awesome. Love that kid to death. But Mike was teaching him to either, like, where to catch the ball out in front of him. Have the heels at the same spot, but where to catch it to allow those laces to be up or to the side. And then he even told him to scooch back a couple inches with his feet, whether he's at 15 yards and 5 inches or 14 and a half yards. But I guess at that level, they do tell those snappers figure out, where you can get that ball half a turn or straight up. So that's funny that I just thought about that. But he was teaching that for sure, yeah. So I think that's also on the punters where he catches it can be consistent every single time, out in front or in your body or whatever.
Right, man. It's it's an art, man. It's an art being able to put those laces up. All right, good. We've gone over a ton of punt stuff and long snaps.
Oh yeah,
I'm very happy about that. Now talk to me real quick about your guys' kickoff, because that was something I'd never seen before, and maybe it was because we didn't have a whole lot of time to really get into it. And but briefly kind of go through your guys' kickoff that you guys did last year.
Yeah, so I'm going to ask you just to make sure we're talking about the same thing. I think I went over with you the landmark kickoff scheme.
Yes.
Okay, we'll go over that, and that's something that I got into it with. This was a Coach Mullen back to a Coach Urban Meyer scheme, I believe. That they all took with them to Mississippi State. And so when I started student coaching, it's just all I knew. I didn't know anything else besides this coverage scheme. And I'll give it to Coach Mullen, man, since 2009 or so, since he got here, Mississippi State has been top 20 in kickoff every single year. Doesn't matter how good our kicker is or not. It's just, I think this scheme is just bulletproof, and I think it lets you as a coach do a lot of things to exploit the return team. And so I liked it a lot. We ran it in 2018, did some different stuff in 2019. But I think it's an interesting scheme. It's the basics of it are everybody has a landmark that you end up at. All right. But week to week, we can line you up in different areas, but you still get to that same landmark, which I thought was a pretty cool idea. Now, one thing I think you can develop it into is getting more aggressive at your landmark. So rather than just holding that point and two gapping and trying to see the returner, just be more aggressive once you get to your landmark. But simply just aligning in different spots and then looping or twisting or falling out to your alignment can screw up a return team majorly just by the yard line that you do it on. So it's beautiful how it works out. Just, you think of this scheme in 20 minutes and a return team's going to have to spend 2 days on it, because it's just so complex with how it works out. But to the players, it's super simple. All right, I'm aligning here, but I'm going to my same spot that I always do. And so, don't matter how good of a kickoff return team you are, you can't plan for your tackle to make the block at like the 20-yard line. It's just not part of your scheme. Like, you can't bet on that guy looping, because then, week to week we'll change guys' job titles and just screw you completely up. So it was a really good deal. Like, if I'm a kick side safety every single time, and I end up between 1 and 2, 5 yards behind them, just like I'm supposed to do every week, mid-game you can say, hey, you and the 1 are changing jobs. All right. So now I go do what the 1 does what I do. And that that guy could end up free, very, very easily. So I love the landmark kickoff scheme. I think it's pretty diverse with like weekly and in-game you can change it up too. Pretty cool.
That is awesome. I think, yeah, that in-game part of it is like, so because obviously what teams focus on the most is kickoff and punt. You don't
definitely
hurt in any of those situations. Is there a time where you guys made a in-game adjustment and it just killed another team?
Oh, yeah. We made a bunch of them in 2018 on kickoff alone of finding out, hey, they're doubling this guy instead of this guy like we thought. And then the beauty of that landmark coverage scheme was that it was so simple that you could make a change that you never even practiced that week, and the players get it immediately. Okay, yes, sir. And they go out there and they freaking play 100 miles an hour and dominate it. And so, yeah, there's a couple instances where we could tell they were identifying a jersey, right, and change those jobs, descriptions real quick. Not description, but those 2 guys' jobs, switched it around real quick and just ate them up, man. They were double teaming a safety, and we got one guy screaming down unblocked and just smokes the returner at the 10-yard line. So something that, took us 2 minutes to come up with. I mean, that's a game changer. You tackle it inside the 15, that's a game record for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's what, I don't know, sets coaches apart is like the ability to be fluid,
for sure,
and make adjustments in game. That's huge. Or to have a scheme that allows you to do that.
Yeah,
that's so important, man.
Yeah, and I think that all came with how many people we have on special teams. We had a coordinator, we had me, and then we had a senior consultant. So that's 3 guys that in a game are able to bounce ideas off each other, draw everything up to a T, and make suggestions. And a lot of teams don't have that. That's kind of an NFL model of having 3 guys on special teams. I think it works out really well. I wish more colleges would do it. It opened up more jobs for people, but I think it's very, very useful on game days, having that many eyes. And then if you can get one of those guys in the box, that's a game changer. Because usually you're relying on, offensive GA or tight ends coach to help you out up there, or running backs coach when they got other things to deal with. But,
and it made me think about this too. Coach Lustig was on. He's from Syracuse.
Yeah.
And he was on one of the teams talks, and he was talking about responsibilities of people they use on special teams. And he actually had a specialist watching teams, non-starters watching the kickoff units and seeing what, certain guys were doing and reporting back to him and allowing him to make in-game adjustmants like that. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
What do they have you do in-game? What's your in-game responsibilities?
Oh man, well, I'd say it changed every week. I will tell you, yes, we had specialists that saved me a lot of trouble, and they got fired up to do it, man. I had one guy on the clock every game, and he loved doing it. And then I had 2 guys watching stuff on kickoff and watching stuff on their punt return. So that was able to help me out a ton. And they wanted to do – that's the greatest thing is if you can get a specialist to buy in and realize, like, look, man, I know you just kicked, but you got to love special teams. And by that I mean, what's our game plan this week? Like, what's this return? How's their return? What are we going to do against their kickoff? Like, they were all of them wanted to help, and I was able to go through a game plan, made me better as a coach, and then teach them on game day, like, this is what we need. I need this from you. I'm dependent on you. And even though they weren't out there snapping or kicking, they had a job that game, and they were fired up to do it. And but my game day responsibilities, Coach Jones, I'm so grateful for that guy, man. He trusted me with a whole lot. And, man, I was able to my biggest responsibility, I'd say, was drawing up the scheme and checking their personnel. And I think I had a pretty good system. I would get every single position drawn up, and what they're doing, just based on kind of the things I was asking other guys to watch and my ability to watch from the sideline. I think just from the amount of tape I was able to watch, because, I mean, I'm just special teams, man. That's all I do. I was able to kind of teach myself, all right, on game day, like, what can I see from these guys in one look? You know, whether it's their gunners or the R1 through R5 on kickoff. Like, can I watch that entire thing? You know, have an idea of what they're doing so that I can actually see it as a full picture. So, yeah, that was my main role, was to get their personnel, draw up exactly what they're doing so that we can make an adjustment, and then personnel, so substitutions, which is a freaking animal in itself for sure. So
I bet, man, but that's so helpful to the team. So that's a huge part, and that's kind of exciting, man.
No doubt.
Well, that's awesome, dude. We covered so much here in almost 2 hours, I'd say. But that was some good stuff, man. Is there anything else that you wanted to go over or talk about? You already helped so much. I know there's gonna be coaches and specialists that listen to this. And
yeah, I got one more thing, man. Talking about situations during the week to put your specialists in to kind of make the game easy for them. One big thing that I think we do that puts us apart from people is every day of the week has an emphasis. So, you know, we go over the script every day, just like every other specialist group out there. But before they leave, they're going to know the emphasis. So if it's a Tuesday, right, and this isn't accurate, but we'll just give an example. All right, Tuesday, punters. Today you are a backed up, like after we get our punt script and our team punt, whatever. All right, today you are working on backed up and you're working on heavy rush. All right, so whatever you got to do, you got to get the equipment guys to rush you from this side or from the back side, or, you know, our third string snapper, whatever. Today you freaking work on backed up punt. All right, once you're done with that, get you some high pressure rush situation punts where you got to get it out. So they're able to hit that, you know, during the week. And then, you know, that same day, snappers, all right, after you get everything, you know, and you've done field goal and punt, let's work on muffed returns, right? So do I, you know, is it country ball or city ball? You know, did I allow him to make the fair catch? Little things that can come up in a game, all right? And then kickers, you know, it's an all delay day. So whether it's, hey, they're reviewing the touchdown, or we got delay a game, there's only 10 guys on the field, or, you know, kickoff guy, there's something wrong with the clock, so you got to wait, take your steps again, or whatever. So that is Tuesday for them, so they know exactly what they're working. They knock it out early, and then, you know, the next day is going to have another emphasis for every position. I thought it was huge. And then by Thursday, we did this thing called mock game, which came from Adam Shire, which I could spend a whole show talking about that guy, but he brought up this thing, and it's a mock game. That's all it is. And so after we do everything team-wise, it's a little script, and it's got everything from first quarter all the way to overtime. And it's probably, you know, I'd say total 15 reps, you know, kickoff, punt, field goal, everything together. But you play a game. You're on the sideline. I give the exact situation. Hey, we're down 3-0. All right, offense is driving. All right, it's 8:49 left in the first. All right, it's right now it's 2nd and 18. All right, now we got 3rd and 4. You know, we get a sack. All right, let's go field goal. But we'll go through the whole thing of a field goal alert. Like, I'll yell that out, and then they'll stand by me. I'll give the situation. Boom. We got an equipment guy out there spotting the ball, and they run out there, do the rep. I'm timing everything. And then, you know, so they make it in this kickoff. All right, Scott, you know, it's we're 3-3. I need a touchback here. Or, hey, hang this thing up there, just like it would be in a real game. And so we go through an entire game, and we always win. We always win in overtime with a field goal. But, you know, it's cool. We play the game before it happens. So, like, before we play LSU, all right, this is our mock game versus LSU. And so, you know, punt, every situation is covered, like a weird situation, whatever it is. And so our guys loved it. I mean, they were fired up about it. They made some funny comments, you know, about, you know, in-game situations. Like, coach, cheerleader twisted her ankle over there. But, like, It was good. We were able to get all this stuff in, and it made my job so easy. And all I would do is just tweak it every week and print it off, and gave 3 copies to equipment guys so they could spot, the backup kickers so they could, time some stuff for me. But it was major. It's really major.
And I love that. Did you do 15 total, or was like the punters hit 15 reps?
Nah, man, it was 15 total. Punter may have 3 reps. Kickers may have, 4 kickoffs. Like I changed the score, obviously, a lot of times, but it was never more than 15 total.
Yeah, because you don't want to hit a whole bunch on Thursday.
Yeah, and then Coach Brock, talking to him, he wants to make it better and make it more of a mental game too, on top of it. So I think we're going to make this thing really, really good, and I think it's something everybody out there should consider doing.
Man, I love it so much. Yeah, whenever you can put your guys – and here's the biggest thing I teach my kickers is, like, I want you the night before what I would do is I'd meditate or I'd, listen to something, but I'm thinking about the game. So, for example, before we played Ole Miss, that was the one SEC game I played in. I never played an SEC opponent in my life, and now we're going in. This is my senior year. It's like second year of my senior year. And I'm like, I'm going through it mentally. Like I'm trying to prepare, but I'm seeing myself walking. I know you don't like hearing about the team up north, but I'm seeing myself walk into the locker room. I'm seeing myself tie up my cleats. I'm seeing they're wearing white jerseys with gray pants and that ugly powder blue helmet. I'm seeing myself hit a 44-yard punt, A.J. Brown to 0 return yards. I'm seeing one of my punts get partially blocked, but then I come back and I answer. That's what you guys are doing the day before in practice.
Yeah.
That's
no
all.
doubt. And that's what I'd love to hear more from you from is getting a Friday ritual. And something I'm always trying to work on is game day stuff too. So, I mean, we can all get better. There's things I'm learning every single year, and I'm probably going to have to come to you for some of that stuff for sure to get my guys right. But everybody's different. That's the beauty of it. And that's why I couldn't give you an exact recipe for snapping. It's because every snapper is different. That's what I got to do is take what they do best and make it better if I can. You can't teach every snapper the exact same way. It's just part of it.
Oh, I'm 100% with you, man. But I think you did a great job of listing the fundamentals. It's just like golf where I believe, you're right. Everyone's different. All the kickers and punters are different, but there's a general fundamentals you could always fall back on, to help coach your guys up. And I think you did a fantastic job of talking about it, man. But
sweet.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. Plug yourself. What do you got going? Obviously the season's coming up, but what do you got going on for yourself here coming up? Anything?
Oh shoot, man. Let's see. I tried Call of Duty, sucked at it. Did some cooking, got real good at that. Let's see. Might pick up an instrument. Who knows? Playing a lot of golf.
What was your go-to cooking-wise? What were you chefing up?
Oh, man. I got really good at fried rice, man. Like chicken fried rice, shrimp fried rice. It's an art. But the beauty of it is whatever the heck you got in your fridge can be fried rice. I mean, it could be daggum tuna fried rice. And so it's an art form for sure. But I think I got it down pat. Playing a lot of golf, getting not much better at that, but better at masking my emotions during it for sure. Let's see what else. I'm now fired up to get back in the office on Monday. We'll hopefully be able to meet with some kids in person soon just to get back. I'm sick of Zooming players. I think everybody is. But, yeah, it'd be good just to get some normalcy, going. But, man, I don't know. Just kind of figuring it out day by day. Got my Nintendo 64 back up here, so we'll be playing some Mario Kart.
There we go, man. That's awesome to hear. And, you got so much good stuff going on, and I'll definitely be, pulling for you guys this year, especially.
Oh, no doubt.
With all the crazy stuff going on. I can't wait. I can't wait to see what happens there. Sorry, I got the thing started.
That outro?
Yeah, I do have a little outro thing.
I'll be pulling for the herd too, man. You're gonna do a great job.
Hey,
those guys are right. How many specials you got?
About 1/4 of what you guys have.
Sweet.
No, we have.
Okay, so 60? Yeah.
Yeah. No, we have about I think 8. that are going to be in for fall
Solid number.
7. But yeah, well, we got some exciting young guys in here and some old leadership too. So
Yeah, well, I know it's the anniversary of the plane crash coming up this year, right? I hope they do like a college game day or something
yes,
for
sir,
you
that's
guys.
right. Sign that petition, huh? I know it's been.
I'm definitely on it, man. Matthew McConaughey, first movie I saw with him ever was that movie. So
The funny thing about that too, man, is so I was a high school teacher until about March 1st, and I'm just telling my class we're in the 1920s Great Gatsby. So I said, all right, you can either watch the movie The Great Gatsby, all right, or you can watch this, which happened in 1970, We Are Marshall movie. And they're like, well, what happens in We Are Marshall? And I'm like, well, it's a great story about tradition. It was like one of my favorite college football movies.
yeah,
And I said, and they rise the program. They come together as a town, as a city, and they're all like, every single class was like that one. So I saw that movie probably 7 times again.
foreshadowing.
Like first hour, yeah. And I was
That's
like,
sweet.
the 50th anniversary, and same thing. We're going to East Carolina and stuff. So
Yeah,
I'm ecstatic about that, man. It's gonna be fun.
that's cool, man. Well, you deserve it. You worked your butt off, and I'm happy to see you. In your element for sure.
I appreciate that, man. And Coach Tucker, it's always a great time when we get to link up, man.
No
To
doubt.
me, you are one of the great young minds in special teams at the Power 5 level, and it's only a matter of time before you get a coordinator role. So I'm just glad
Much respect, man.
that we get to chop it up, man. And you're a blessing. Keep doing what you're doing, man.
No doubt, you are too, man. Hey, keep doing this freaking podcast, man. You're killing it. All right, this is awesome. I know it's helped me out for sure as a young guy, and man, it's all good things heading for you in the future.
I appreciate that, man. We'll definitely, we'll probably have to have you on for a part 2, man. You did
Let's do it.
first time. So, all right, Coach Tucker, I appreciate that. To our listeners, don't forget to purchase our book, all right, The Kicker's Bible. It's at icemankicking.com. Coach, where can they follow you at if they have any questions to ask you?
Twitter. I got a pretty catchy Twitter handle. It's at Teams Coach Tuck. I kind of figured I wouldn't coach anything else except special teams, and so we're gonna let that one stick. So Twitter is at Teams Coach Tuck. Instagram is Alan Tucker 69. Before you judge, that was my number in college. It was given to me gracefully. When I showed up in my locker, there it was, 69 Tucker, and I think it was a kind of a Jared Allen thing as a DN. So, those are the 2 deals you can get me at there. And then email, I still do that. It's alantucker11@gmail.com. So that's where you can get me.
Love that, man. You got a LinkedIn? You got a MySpace?
Yeah, we'll do MySpace.
Awesome, man. Thanks for listening. And if you have any questions you'd like asked or select guests coming up, follow and send us a message on Twitter and Instagram to Iceman_kicking or IcemanKicking@gmail.com. Be sure to follow us and turn notifications on YouTube, Spotify, and SoundCloud at Iceman Kicking Podcast, and rate and review us on Apple Music. This will be important as we will have giveaways going forward. Also, check out our TikTok under the same name for the best clips from these interviews. And tune in next week for another great Special Teams Mind. I'm Brett Arkelian, and for everyone at the Iceman Kicking Podcast, we hope you stay cool under pressure and have a great week.